Welcome to the Armani Talks podcast. I'm your host, Armani Talks. In this podcast, I'm helping you level up your communication skills every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If this is your first time on this podcast, be sure to hit that subscribe button right on below to stay updated with the latest content on how to become a much more articulate communicator. Today, we are back for Unapologetic Truths, episode 10, The Man, the Myth, the Legend, Strongman. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Arman. How are you? We have hit episode 10, finally.
Yes. Anytime something's hitting that 10 increment, that's when you know it means business.
Yeah, it means we're serious. This is a milestone, huh?
Absolutely. We were talking about in our last episode how it's been over a year. So I've been enjoying doing these with you and having these long form discussions on so many different topics.
Likewise, it's been over a year since we started to make these, and time just flies. I don't even remember. I think the first episode was posted sometime in November last year.
Yep.
So
I think
it's
the first or second week of November.
so it's been almost exactly a year, and
It has.
it feels like one day. It feels like it was almost instant, like poof, and we lost the year. But this was a very
Right.
good year. This was, for me at least, this was one of my most productive years. I know it was like a messed up year too because of the whole COVID and lockdown thing, but it was a very productive year for me. What about you?
It's been a productive year. I've been growing the brand, wrote more books this year, and been collaborating behind the scenes with other creators as well. So it's been a productive year. It's one of those situations when there is crises going on around you. You could either use that as a moment to throw in the towel or find different ways to be creative, as difficult as it may seem. So I'm grateful for the past year, even though it's not been normal. I've been able to luckily adapt. And you actually have an announcement that you wanted to make, and it's a big announcement.
Yes, so the fourth module of our crypto course that is on teachyourselfcrypto.com. The fourth module on decentralized finance is finally here. So, if you are someone who is interested in learning more about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and DAOs and things like that, tokens, NFTs, we already had you covered in the first three modules. But if you want to now also learn about decentralized finance, we have you here as well. So, the course, this particular module is 50 hours long. And this is very, very long because the first three modules combined were 33 hours long, and this one module is 50. But this is very comprehensive. It is everything you need to know. It teaches you from scratch. So it's not like we're expecting you to be a developer or a scientist or an autistic dude to understand decentralized finance. We will show you everything from the beginning, and this course is the best course on the internet and it's completely free. So go check it out on teachyourselfcrypto.com.
The fact that you're making this free is mind blowing to me. And guys, I've worked with Harsh, I've consumed his content before, and he has this art of turning complex topics into simplicity. And I do know that nowadays more people are trying to learn about cryptocurrency, but they don't know where to begin at all. So you said your course talks about the fundamentals from A to Z.
Correct. So learning about crypto online has two problems. Not I'm not talking about our course. I mean in general, from all the resources that exist and the problem that we have solved. The first big issue is that you can't find proper resources. So if you go on YouTube and on Google and you look for resources, you will either find something that's too normy and too easy. It's very superficial and doesn't give you any of the details. And or you will find resources which are too complex, too autistic, and you can't understand anything. They're just so filled with jargon and so complex. So what we were looking for are something in the middle. So our course will teach you everything from scratch, but it's going to teach you at a decent enough technical depth so that you understand the concept completely. So you are not left thinking that, I only have a superficial understanding of these things. You know everything, but you don't have to be a developer or a scientist to know these things. So everything is explained in a very simple way, but it doesn't trade off any depth. And the other problem when you're learning online is that you're just watching random videos and everything. So you're picking up bits and pieces of information everywhere, but you might miss something and you will miss something, and you're not learning in a structured way. So with teachyourselfcrypto.com, you learn everything in a structured way. You can't miss anything. You go from serially from one video to the next to the next to the next, and all the concepts will be covered. So you aren't basically looking for random things, and this is like a proper curriculum that you would go to a college for.
And that's one of the most important things where you're not just delivering the content, but you're capable of delivering the context as well. And where you were saying that some people are normally delivering it in a overly simple way or an overly complex way, one thing that I saw is that if you're not familiar with a crypto or the language in regards to it, a lot of things seem complex. And I notice a lot of people will just give you a whole bunch of data, and you, the consumer, are like, so what? So I'm sure with the way that you explain things, you place a lot of importance on the context so people understand why it's important.
Absolutely. And for all of our courses and all of our modules in the course, we've always strived to give you the context of the course. So, for example, when we taught Bitcoin in our first module, and which is still up on Teach Yourself Crypto, we first taught you what was money, how it worked, the evolution and history of money. Because you have to know what you are replacing and what is Bitcoin. And you cannot really understand Bitcoin without understanding what money is, because people nowadays, when they think of money, they tend to assume that this is a government function. Their assumption is that money is something that the government does, which is not really true. Governments just got into it fairly recently. Money was always something that people did. What people agreed was money was money. So if you take historically in India, cattle was considered to be money. The government wasn't making cattle. In Rome, salt was considered money. So they were mining salt from the earth, so it was very scarce. So salt would be money in Rome. Some places butter was money, and we had different types of commodity money. Even metallic money was not initially a government thing. So people tend to assume that what is going on today has been going on since forever, but history is different. So we're giving you all the background, all the history of what we are replacing, how we got here, and that really helps you understand the innovations of today. That makes you understand why Bitcoin is important and why it's not some bullshit thing. And if you take decentralized finance, we teach you decentralized finance first. We teach you what is a bank, why does it exist, how it works, so that you can actually understand what decentralized finance is replacing. So there was earlier traditional finance, and you have to understand the problems of traditional finance to appreciate decentralized finance and what they're trying to do.
Yes. And you talking about the history of a field, that turns a subject from 2D into 3D, where you're starting to get more perspective and you're thinking, oh, okay, now I see why it's so important. And I could tell, Harsh, that this is a topic that you're passionate about. And is there any other announcements you wanted to talk about in regards to this upcoming course?
Not particularly. So this course is the fourth module is released, and the fifth module, which will be on privacy coins like Monero and Zcash, will be released in January. But until now, this course is the total is about 83 hours, and this is the best course, and I think the only course of its type on the internet. So, highly recommend anyone listening to go check it out. You will learn something and you will be happy.
And how could they access it again?
You just have to go to teachyourselfcrypto.com.
Awesome. And I'm going to be dropping the links in the description box. So be sure to check it out. I know what I'm doing after this podcast. So this actually ties into one of the tweets that I had pulled up for you,
I have to
which
ask
was
Arman, sorry to interrupt you. Have you been
yes.
learning about crypto as well, or have you just ignored it?
No, I've been learning about it, Harsh. So here's my story with crypto. I was learning about it a while back when I was in undergrad, and I was just basically understanding the nitty gritty fundamentals of it, of how the technology works, the whole process of mining, decentralization. And my professor at that time, he was pretty boldly telling us, "Oh, I'm just a researcher. I'm not here to teach you guys, but they're making me teach you guys." And I'm thinking, man, that's a pretty bold thing for a professor to say. But the beauty about that, Harsh, was that he didn't give us too many tests or any of that. He gave us a lot of his practical insights with crypto. And this class was what, 4 or 5 years ago that I had it. So it's a it's blurry to me, but I recall it enough to, get some interest in regards to it. And then my interest in crypto started to fade away up until this past year, where many people have been talking about it in my friend circle. So I have been staying updated with the news. I won't say that I'm any sort of master in it or I know it proficiently or anything, but I will say that I'm not a complete noob in it. Does that make sense?
I see. So you have a basic understanding, but not an in-depth understanding.
Yes, I would say that's the best way to phrase me. So I wouldn't say I'm a advanced guy. I wouldn't say I'm a beginner, but I would say I know enough, but I definitely want to know more. So this class, I'm definitely checking it out.
Which class did you take in college? I did not know that they were teaching crypto in college back in 2016.
So I got my master's in business analytics and information systems, and this class's name was Decentralized Finance slash Crypto 101.
Hmm.
And it was one of the electives, so it wasn't mandatory. And the only reason I took it was because data storytelling was taken, and I thought, okay, I might as well check it out. And
Which college was this? Because this is really impressive. They had a class on decentralized finance in 2016, back when decentralized finance was barely a thing. I don't remember when
yeah,
Ethereum was launched. Let me check. Because decentralized finance really took on after, say, Bancor, and that was not. I think it was after 2016. Let me see. Wait,
so the college
Ethereum.
is University of South Florida in Tampa.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, so Ethereum was launched on 30th July 2015. Let me see
hmm
Bancor launch. So, what did you learn about decentralized finance back then? I'm very curious to hear.
So I was learning about the process of mining a coin, how the theory of decentralization works, how the different tokens are processed. The so one thing that got my curiosity that I remember learning was the process of data mining and how there were different people from around the world who were getting into this. And I'm not gonna lie, Harsh. I don't remember this class in detail because I was taking these classes when I was also a full time employee. So right after a full days of work, I had to go to the lecture. So a lot of the times I'd be dozing off, but I do recall data mining being one of the topics that was being brought up.
What did you
Do you
do
know about
at
that?
work? I do know of data mining.
What did I do at work or in
At
school?
work, I want to understand why would someone who is going to college also work? So that's not the norm here. Like people here don't work when they go to college.
So what I was doing at that time, Harsh, was I was building applications for different different organizations in the government. I can't go too detailed on that just because of clearance, and just because of clearance. But
We have a
I would
spy here.
handle what do you call it? But it was a lot of the IT part of creating applications. So the reason that I was getting my master's was because I wanted to understand more about information technology, more about business analytics, and how everything ties into that one holistic picture. Because
Hmm.
during my time, Harsh, I was an engineer, but I was also in the business side as well. And I was more so a systems engineer who has proficiency in the technical sides as well as the business sides. And since I was working in Tampa, University of South Florida has one of the greatest programs for business analytics and information systems in the US. So I thought this was perfect because my company was like, we'll give you some money to do your master's and you just have to pay out a little bit from your end. So I thought, okay, if you guys are going to cover my master's and it relates to my field, I'll do it. And that's why I ended up being a full time worker and a part time master's student.
I see. So is it normal for people to be working a full-time job while being in college? Because I know that college is very expensive abroad. Here in India, it's not the case. But abroad, I've heard it costs like $100,000 and absurd amounts of money to just go to college.
So it's not normal if you're doing your bachelor's degree, which is undergrad. But if you're doing your master's degree, which is grad school, it's pretty much the norm. You'll see a lot of career professionals who are doing their grad school as a full time worker and a part time student. But in my program, Harsh, there were a lot of international students who were coming from overseas strictly to come to the grad school program. And I would say 85% of my curriculum were Indians. And for them, they were full time students. So they weren't working or anything, they were strictly focused on school. But for me, since I already began my career at the time, I was a part time student.
I see. That makes sense because here in India, we don't really we don't have a job while studying, and it's considered to be something that's very rare to do. And people will assume it's because you have some kind of financial problems, unless it's like an internship or something like that. I will
So you know
say,
what's funny?
yeah, go ahead.
So a lot of my classmates were Indians, and I recall, Harsh, that they were smart. Where a lot of the stuff that we were learning, these kids that came straight from India, they knew this like the back of their palms. You know what I'm saying? And one of my friends, he was a white kid named Toby, and Toby was highly social. He wanted to network with everyone in our curriculum. Me, I just wanted to at that point go into the class and leave. But what I noticed, Harsh, was that a lot of the Indian students were going out of their way to bring me into their circle. While it was hilarious because Toby, the white guy, they would never invite him for the exclusive study groups, but they would go out of their way to invite me. And around that time, Harsh, during grad school, I was starting to see what I call like primal tribe building, where I think the Indians saw that I was something like them. I'm Bengali, but I think they saw that I had similarities with them. So it wasn't even second guess where they were just inviting me into their circle. And I noticed that a lot of the Asian kids who didn't know each other would just team up. And people would just team up with people who look like them. Because in grad school, Harsh, yeah, in grad school, the teachers aren't that strict. They're not over here babying you or anything. You're pretty much self monitoring yourself. So the reason I wanted to say that was because around that time, I started to understand how it's like in India because these guys are coming straight from India to the US. And they were very curious about how the American culture worked. I don't know if that's why they were recruiting me because they were like, oh, he's been here for some time. But it was pretty unique for me to see.
So, what did you find different about the Indian people and compared to the average American person?
So for them, man, when they heard about house parties, their mind was blown for some reason. Where for me at that time, I used to be the vice president of my fraternity. And more specifically, I was the external vice president, basically the guy who was in charge of throwing events and making sure that our fraternity was well known in the school. So, bottom line was that I knew how to find house parties and just social events around the area. But my problem was that, since I was working full time, it was difficult to constantly stay updated and know the course material. So, me and my fellow Indian peers, we worked out a deal. I told them that I'd invite them out to a lot of these different parties, and they had to give me a crash course on what's important for our classes. And the deal worked out perfectly. But normally, when I take them out to the parties, it was just fun seeing them out because I think the party atmosphere in the US is much different than India. But
More
they
or
just seemed
less,
amazed.
India does not have a big party culture. It's not that type of culture. Ours is more conservative and serious. Except in some bigger cities, we have like liberal cliches with rich people or upper middle class people who party a lot. But other than that, it's more of a serious thing to do. Like we wouldn't consider, like it's considered to be a vice really to party a lot. But in America, I think it's considered to be a very cool thing.
Yeah, it's a cool thing, I would say, but it's more so just a part of life where if you're in college, you'll stumble into parties every now and then. And I guess that's why they were recruiting me into their circle because they knew that we could make some sort of exchange like that.
Yeah,
So,
maybe.
what you said was pretty interesting. So, you say you guys don't party too much. Uh, what do you guys do then? Do you guys do any kind of partying or some sort of remix to that?
Not particularly. I cannot speak for all Indians, of course, because India is very different across the world. Like there are different kinds of people here. But at least for my family, I was never taught that partying is important, and my parents always told me this is a waste of time for morons, and you should focus on more important things in life. Because any idiot can party, like any idiot can, go and dance to music. And
Hmm.
I never went to too many parties, and whenever I have gone to parties, it's usually not that much fun for me because I don't drink, and the music is too loud, so I don't want to. So it just isn't that much fun. Like it's not boring. It is fun, but it isn't something overwhelming or something I want to do regularly. Especially because it's so loud. You can't talk to anyone because of how loud it is. Plus, as an intelligent person that this is going to damage your hearing. So that's not good for you. So I can't. I personally I don't really enjoy partying, and most people in India do not party. This is not something that's normal. And I do know that people do other things for fun, like going out with their family, and our fun is more tame. It isn't like partying.
Hmm.
I will say that lately this has been changing.
How so?
We have more Western influence, correct, because of TV and Netflix, and people are starting to believe that partying is the cool thing. So you lately, I've been getting more and more people who would never party ask me if I want to go to a party. So I know the situation here is changing and we are losing our culture, but yeah, I don't think even today 90% of India frequently parties, or when they say party, their version of party is very lame. It's like just food and normal soft drinks and like a normal atmosphere, and usually partying is something that's done for like a kid's birthday and not for like adults.
Well, it's interesting you brought that up because these Indian classmates that I had, they would invite me to their study groups where there were two types of study groups, Harsh. One was in the library, which was pretty tamed, And every now and then, there was this guy named Siddharth. He would be like, "Hey, Arman, you want to come to the cool study group?" I was like, "The cool study group? I thought this is the cool study group." And he's like, "No, no, no. You're in for a surprise tonight." So by the time,
Oh man.
bro, it was a Friday night, and he apparently invited me to the lit
See, as an
study
Indian,
group.
I will say that that Indian accent just does not go with the whole vibe, you know.
Dude, so I go to the lit study group, and it's what you described. There's a little bit of music playing, there's chips, there's salsa, there's some snacks, some food, and people are, in a circle over here studying. I'm thinking, man, how is this the cool study group? It just seems like the same one that we had in the library, but this time it's in a house. So I think when they were initially hitting me up and they're like, "Hey, Armani, do you know any social events that we can go to?" I think they were expecting something like that. But, you know, as the former vice president, I had different connections with, parties, like house parties, different club areas that people can go to. And once they went there, they were like, "Oh my, we were not expecting this at all." And they were mind blown. It's like they were seeing a new world. And I'm thinking, this is a new world. This is normal.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I think there's a culture shock there, but go ahead.
to take it a level further, Hirsch, for me personally, the whole concept of partying, I kind of liked it in my earlier years, but later on, it was more so business for me, where I knew that if we were in a fraternity, and you know what a fraternity is, right?
It's like a group you can join or something.
Yeah, it's pretty much an organization, a brotherhood, and there's a bunch of different fraternities, and sororities are the ones with the girls. It's a sisterhood where if we wanted to be relevant, we couldn't just be volunteering all the time and doing these different activities, which were great for school. We had to do social events as well. So this was one of my first times seeing the business side of throwing parties where you have to organize different moving variables where you got to get a cameraman, you got to get a DJ, you got to make sure that the girls show up as well. Otherwise, it's a sausage fest. And a sausage fest basically means only guys show up. So there's all these different moving variables behind the scenes. So by the time I'm at the actual party, I'm not really enjoying it like that because I got to make sure these different moving variables are aligned. And I actually made a
You're a systems engineer.
and it's just like a big large complex system. It's different if you're just going to the party, but behind the scenes, the person who's throwing the party, they're seeing this complex system.
Hmm. This is good training for, actual event businesses. What you did,
Mhm.
because I can totally see how this can get complex. You have to arrange food, alcohol, or a DJ, and they all have to show up by the same time. And partying has this network effect thing where, for example, if no one's going to that party, then no one will go to that party. And if a lot of people are going, then a lot of people will go.
Mhm.
So arranging all of that, I do see that it can get complex.
Dude, you just hit the nail on the head because there was this one event that I threw. It was called Asian Fusion, where it was a bunch of different organizations like the Desi organizations, Asian organizations, white, Spanish, all these different people coming together. And they were going to do performances, they were going to do skits and all of that. And afterwards, we're going to have an after party. So during the actual Asian Fusion, what we were expecting was, I would say 150 to 200 people were going to show up. Over 500 people show up. And dude, we ran out of utensils. So once we ran out of utensils, we have all these different food that uh, people need to still eat. So that's when I had to go on the mic and I'm like, man, what am I going to do? We got to improvise. And that's when I get on the mic and I'm like, Yo, guys, you guys do know that it's Asian fusion. In our culture, we eat with our hands. We don't need no utensils. Dude, and all these people are like, yeah, yeah, we're cultural for the night. And they all start eating with their hands.
Oh man, this is like being a politician.
But the bottom line is that it's complex and network effects absolutely do kick in because some parties will be dead. But if you get certain key players from an organization coming, they will at least bring 40 people out of the blue moon. You just got to get that one black swan. So, do you see what I'm trying to say?
Hmm. So like the influencers in a way.
Yeah, dude, because let's say you're in part of a group. People could try to hit up all these other people, or they could directly hit up Life Math Money, especially if it's an upcoming author, because you have a huge reach and people like to read who follow you. So it's not that different throwing the right party and starting a business.
Hmm. So let me ask you something. If you had to throw a party, where would you start? What is the first thing you would do? And what is the process of throwing a great party? Because that's something we've never talked about before. And, our podcast usually goes into more serious topics, but this is a pretty
Hmm.
fun one. So tell me, how does it work?
Okay. So the first thing that starts off is the idea. And I'll actually walk you through a real life party that I helped throw. So, have you ever heard of a tailgate?
No.
So, a tailgate is basically American football right before the actual football game. People all get together, they do barbecue, and they play games, they drink, they do all that kind of stuff. And then once they had the pre show fun, that's when they go to the actual game. So, the tailgate is just think of it as the pre party to the actual football game. So, one year, there was a tailgate that I was going to be hosting, and this event was going to have roughly 450 people from all around Florida. Okay. So, here's the funniest thing. You asked, what is the first thing you should know? The first thing is the title. Let me say that again because that's important. The first thing is the title of the event. So the tailgate that we were throwing was between two rival Florida schools. It was USF and FSU. The year
Schools.
before, yes, two universities.
Okay.
So I would say a year or two before, University of South Florida beat Florida State University. And this year, Florida State University was coming into Tampa for a rematch. So the title of the event was Who Runs Florida? Question mark, question mark. And that's when I make the event page on Facebook. And simply with this sort of title, multiple people are now getting curious. They're like, FSU runs Florida. Other people are like, no, USF runs Florida. And I see all these different people hitting attend. So that's another key insight. Rather than just going through word of mouth marketing, use information technology such as Facebook, Twitter, something, and you expand your reach. So first, create event page. Second, create um, the invites, hit it up to different people, and from there, that's where the logistics now began. The unsexy part, such as getting the right DJ, making sure the venue is clear for a certain amount of time, getting the supplies, and then you have to communicate your message to different people who are helping you throw the party on what they have to do. And you don't want them to be complex. You want one person having one duty because you better believe on the actual party day, a lot of people are suddenly going to have amnesia. I'm supposed to do this? I was like, yeah, you dummy. You got to do this. So give people one task. And from there, you want to get the key players in a group, okay? A group me or something like that. And you want to be in constant communication with them. You want to assume that these people are idiots. They can't think for themselves. They need you to handhold them. Even though this sounds like a mean narrative to frame them as, you, as the party thrower, you're going to make a lot more smarter decisions. When you do not view people as smart, you view them as dumb and lazy. Now you're going to over communicate more. And from there, it's just a matter of connecting the different dots. Did that make sense?
Yes.
And that's pretty much a lead up, man. I mean,
Oh, is it?
overall,
Okay.
from there,
I have to
yeah,
ask
from
though, how does the funding come? I thought you will talk about funding the party because I assume these are college kids. So where do you pay for the DJ, the food, and everything?
okay, so a lot of organizations, they have a certain fund, basically from past events that they've thrown. So they have a certain reservoir of cash reserves in their organization. So I'm assuming that the organization that's throwing the event has couple of some money to play around with. Now, if you don't have money, then you're going to have to, instead of creating a Facebook page, you're going to have to create an Eventbrite page or some sort of page which takes tickets from the get-go. And this is a different kind of talk where if you're trying to charge tickets, you got to make sure that y it's not that complex actually. It's just a different sort of software and you have to charge for tickets. In
I
terms of the
see.
DJ,
Yeah, go
in
ahead.
terms of the DJ, in terms of the DJ, you just got to do some negotiating. And this is why it's important to know key players who could help you with a party where you don't necessarily need to pay a DJ. Where one of my fraternity brothers was a DJ. So he's not going to charge us to throw DJ at his own party. And a lot of them just want exposure as well. So you want to
Hmm.
get creative with that.
So, Arman, do you guys have something called cover charge in the US or in the parties you do? Because here in India, I've heard like I have never like paid this charge ever in my life, but I've heard that there are clubs here where if you want to go in, you have to pay them money, and especially if you're a guy. So if you're a girl, they let you in for free because and if you're a girl in a club, you're basically a commodity. But if you're a guy, then you're their customer and you have to pay them some money to get in the club in the first place.
So in clubs, you normally have to pay a fee as a guy. And for girls, normally there's a certain period where you don't have to pay. So some clubs have from or not 8, from like 11 to 2, girls get in for free. And some clubs have ladies' night out. So they're completely free in terms of entrance and the drinks. And some clubs, they don't charge a cover fee if they're a new club and they're trying to get more traffic. But more established clubs, Harsh, you can
Mhm.
expect them to charge a cover fee.
I see. Personally, I've never been to any club that forced me to pay a cover fee. Like there have been clubs that asked, and I just went to a different club, and that's because I'm just not going to pay anyone for the penalty of being a guy. Like it just goes against what I believe. It's that I am not going to pay you for something I did not purchase. In the sense that if I go to a club and I buy food or whatever, then I'm going to pay them. But
hmm
just for entering your establishment, I have to pay you? No, you're not an arcade or something.
Right. And in Miami, it's much more expensive. Where in Miami, some club entries are at least $100.
And people pay up.
Oh, yeah. And these clubs, a lot of celebrities go to as well. So it's seen as an experience.
I see. So it's like going to a concert.
Yes, that's a good analogy. So in India, do they have clubs or not really?
We do have clubs, and some of them are like great popular clubs here. I'm not very aware of this because I'm not the party guy. I party maybe once a year. And yeah, it's something that I'm into, but there are clubs here for sure. And I know about this cover charge thing because my friend was telling me, and I was telling him what an idiot he is for paying it.
How much is it over there? A rough estimate?
I don't really know. I think he was telling me it was like $10 or something, like in Indian money. It was like 700,
Hmm.
800 rupees. So like $10. And just for getting in, and that doesn't make any sense. Like I haven't, so it's like you go to a shop and you have to pay to get in the shop. Like I will pay you when I buy something from the shop, but I won't pay you to get in the shop.
And I could understand that rationale too, where that's why a lot of people they don't go to clubs because they're thinking, well, I don't want to pay that much money. And you don't drink, for example, but let's say people who do drink, that's another additional cost as well. So going out a lot is is an expense that adds up over time.
Hmm. I think it really depends on how you look at it as well. Because if you, I can totally see if someone say enjoys dancing and in the club, for them it's like a concert. For me, it's an annoyance.
Hmm.
So for me, you have to pay me to go to a club because I would rather do something else.
And I could see that. I could see that because there are certain people they love going out. They'll probably go golfing or
No,
they'll do.
exactly. I like going out, but it has to be an enjoyable activity.
Hmm.
If
What do you normally do?
normally if I have to go out, I would go to a restaurant. I would go to a sports club, play some badminton or tennis, or I would go swimming. I would go to the gym, or I would like go for a walk, or I would go hiking. I really like to hike, or I would go to a beach and chill, and that's fun to me. But I'm not. I don't see the fun part of going to a place with really loud music that's literally damaging your ears. Like you will lose hearing if you go there frequently, and
Hmm.
that's charging you as a penalty for being a guy. Like that's disrespectful for me. Like I might do that once just for the experience, just to understand what is going on, but I would not do this as a regular thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, people who go clubbing consistently, I don't know how they have the energy for it. And it's not just going to the club, harsh. It's the lead up to it, where there's rarely just you go to the club. There's a pregame. There's going to the club. There's walking around to other clubs near the area, and then there's a after party, etc. So it's a sequence of steps, not just one activity.
There's an after party. What does that involve? Didn't you just party?
Oh boy, you're new. No, I'm just joking. So an after party is what some activities have, where after the club event, that's when there's a smaller group of people that go to another event, and this is normally a little bit more chill, depending on the atmosphere you're in, and it's more people just talking about the night, and they may have a pizza or something like that. While if you go to a place like Vegas, the after party is more intense than the actual party.
See,
Have you
the
heard of Las
pizza
Vegas?
after party sounds fun. The pizza after party is something I would enjoy, like a conversation over pizza. I have heard of Las Vegas. It's like a gambling city.
Yes, that's where a lot of people go to celebrate their bachelor parties. They go there to gamble. They go there for a night out. If you have something, a big occasion, people will say, "Hey, let's go to Vegas." You'll see a lot of movies based on that.
I remember watching this movie a long time ago when I was in high school or like junior college, as we call it here, called Hangover. It was a series of three movies that I watched with my friends, and I think they were based in Vegas.
Yes, that was the movie that I was actually referring to.
Um,
No, it's crazy that you watched it.
it's a
You
great
liked it?
movie. It's funny.
Hmm.
I do
And
not remember most of it.
yeah, and what they say is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So these people they party hardcore. But what's strange, Harsh, is that it's a pocket of Las Vegas where if you go outside of this pocket, it's a rather normal place. where I know people that live in Las Vegas, they have their houses and they have a family, and it's not what you would imagine. It's just this pocket within Vegas. There's a strip, and that's where you could go to magic shows, you could gamble, you could watch different kinds of shows, etc.
So it's like Wall Street.
Yes, but New York overall, the entire place is upbeat. Where with Vegas, there's this one pocket that's upbeat, and everything surrounding that is pretty chill and low key. It's not. It's the exact opposite of upbeat.
I've heard there's a lot of inflation going on in the US currently. So can you tell me what it's looking like there now?
Yeah, man. I mean, gas prices are increasing,
You know, when
and
someone says gas prices now, the only thing I can think of is Ethereum. It doesn't even hit me that you mean petrol.
oh wait, why were you thinking of Ethereum for?
Because Ethereum has gas prices. To do a transaction, you have to pay gas. And I've
See,
been
that
like
kind of
spending the entire month doing DeFi, so I was paying a lot of gas fees. So that's what I think of when someone says gas price.
see. That's why I want to take your class because I don't know much in detail regarding that. Or what you were just saying right now was a blank for me,
I think you will
and I want to
really
know
enjoy
more.
the class. But tell me more about the inflation thing. I'm really curious. So I have a friend. I have business partners in the US, and some of them will tell me that things are so expensive here that. So he sent me a picture of some kind of detergent used to clean dishes, and this detergent used to cost, I don't remember, let's say $10, and they would give you 1065 ml, and now this detergent is like $12, or just assuming like the price went up, and the actual quantity went down to 945 ml. So not only is the packet shrinking, but the price is increasing, which goes to show that inflation is really, really high in the US. And the same thing is happening here as well.
Oh, in India as well.
Everywhere, all the countries in the world printed a lot of money, which made the value of money decline really hard. So if you take cars, I know a guy who basically has his family, I think they have car dealerships, and he was telling me that the prices of cars have been rising 5% every month, and that's because they don't want to increase prices, but the company that makes the cars is forcing them to increase prices because their costs are going up. So it's becoming more and more expensive to make the car, which is why car prices are rising 5% every single month. Everything is
Wow.
expensive, getting expensive here. From like, if you want plastic items, the price of plastic is going up, the price of steel is going up, so everything, the raw material is getting expensive, so everything has to get expensive. Plus fuel prices here are absurdly high lately. They've gone up like 30% or something, and they're still going higher. So, and that adds costs to everything because you have to transport things from one location to the other. So yeah, there is a lot of inflation in India, but I would love to hear about the US because that's very interesting. People in India consider US to be a great currency, but turns out it's just as shitty.
Well, one of the examples in regards to inflation I can give, and it's a rather small example, but it's on McDonald's. Do you go to McDonald's often,
As
or
a
have you
kid, I
been there
used
before?
to I used to love McDonald's as a kid, but ever since I got into fitness and eating healthy, I go
Hmm.
very rarely. I usually go to McDonald's right before a hike. So if I'm going hiking, I'll stop on the highway and get a bunch of McDonald's burgers for the team, simply because
Hmm.
this is something you can take up with you on a hike and it doesn't get spoiled very fast.
So I'm similar. I don't go to McDonald's too much because I'm normally following some semblance of a diet. But whenever I do go to McDonald's, I normally go with extra pocket change. And in Florida, there's a lot of places where you need some loose change in order to use uh, what do you call it, the laundry and the dryer. So with extra change that I have, I'll normally go to McDonald's on, let's say, a cheat day, or let's say I'm just not feeling like cooking. So I used to recall that back in the days, with I would say $2.50, I could get a decent amount of food. I would say two McChickens, which will fill you up. But nowadays, when I go there, I don't think the dollar menu is really a dollar menu anymore, where it's more expensive now. And it's not way more expensive or
Wait, what do you
anything.
mean a dollar menu? It's like, are you telling me that the dollar menu doesn't cost a dollar anymore?
Well,
Like,
before,
things are not what they used to be. A dollar menu is now $2.
well, nowadays, I think they call it value menu.
Ah.
So it's a little rebrand that they subtly sneaked in there. But yeah, I mean, when I was a little kid, Harsh, that's what I used to normally order from. I would get the dollar menu, and I believe they had the McDouble and the McChicken. And after the taxes, it would come out to $1.07. And this was plenty of years ago, but this was the cycle that they had for some time. Nowadays, I doubt a McDouble is that cheap. I'm pretty sure it's much more expensive, but that's why I wanted to give the context of how I go to McDonald's. I normally go there with some loose change on rare occasions. So it hit me out of the blue moon where I'm like, whoa, this place got expensive out of the blue moon. It's not too expensive, it's just enough for me to notice.
Hmm. But what about other things? Do you notice prices rising there? Because they really will.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they have Harsh, but it's not something that I'm noticing too much at the moment, unless it's directly affecting me. Where the gas, I've noticed, I know that house prices are increasing. I do notice my precious McDoubles prices are increasing. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I'm sure that other things are increasing, but I don't know if it's like that much to a point where it's an apocalypse sort of scenario. Is that what you've been hearing?
Yeah, so what I have been hearing is that it's getting really bad, especially now that the economies are starting to open up. People are spending all the, lower value money, and we're about to see essentially the velocity of money hit the market, and things are going to get much pricier. That's what the economics, from what I understand, is going to it. This is my understanding of economics, and this is what I think will happen. It has to get expensive because they printed a shit ton of money, and anyone with, say, an understanding of fractional reserve banking knows that 1 rupee or $1 being printed has a multiplicative effect of like about a lot of money. It's usually, if the SLR is, say, 10%, then it's about that much. It's like, well, it'll be about $10 or something. So things get more expensive, and when the velocity of money will hit the markets, what's happening right now is that people are at home, they aren't spending that much money. But when they go out and when they try to spend all them, make bucks, or the free printed token by the US government, it has to settle in the prices. It cannot just disappear.
And I think that's one of the reasons the general public isn't noticing it too much Harsh, because a lot of shopping on a routine basis nowadays is done through places like Amazon, where with Amazon, you're sort of given that blind shield from where other people are charging certain money. You see what I'm saying? I
Hmm.
don't know how popular Amazon is
It's
in
very popular.
India.
It's very, even in smaller cities and towns, you have Amazon delivering trucks of goods every single day.
Okay, I was going to ask that. So, do they deliver groceries now as well?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And people have started ordering from them because it's cheaper and more convenient. You don't have to go anywhere. The goods come to your house and they give you extra discounts, which
And
is
I think
really
that's why.
bad for the local business,
Mhm.
because they just can't compete. Amazon can keep making losses, but these guys who are running grocery stores, they can't make a loss. So this is really predatory pricing.
I wonder what the future is going to look like for offline businesses.
They're screwed. Unless they're like an experience business, like a club, where people will just go there for experience. then they will still be around. But something like a shopping center, they're screwed.
Well, there's another place by me. It's interesting that you brought up the club or just places that offer the experience because I know this one business owner who owns a coffee house in Tampa that's pretty much for business owners that want to network with one another. And apparently, his business has been booming for the past couple of months after the lockdowns were shut down in Florida. And more people just want to get out now and they want to network in person. So more people have been coming to his place. He offers coffee, bagels, that sort of stuff. And his business has been doing rather well. So I think retail may take a hit, but I think the experience based businesses are going to rise as long as they master their customer support, their service, which is important.
Correct. I think that as well. I'm not fully convinced about this guy's business though, because this sounds like something that's temporary. People are coming out of lockdown and they want to spend some money and go out. But once that is done, we will see whether this is something that people want to do for the long term. Because coffee shops are generally very tame places. I don't know about this guys, but people usually go there. Oh yeah, if it's like a place where you can go and work, then maybe, because people are getting tired of just sitting at home. So eventually people will get into the habit of working from coffee shops. So it might actually work well.
So his business is unique, where it's not only a coffee shop, Harsh. He also allows local people in Tampa to come speak as well. So I would say 2 years ago, I was asked to speak in masterminds that are hosted there. And a mastermind is a collection of different groups of people who discuss ideas. So I was invited to speak in the coffee shop in order to, talk about social skills, how to network in the business scene, etc. And that's what I noticed about this guy, where he doesn't only brand himself as the coffee guy, he brands himself as coffee, but there's a lot of business deals which are being made there as well. And there's a small community as well,
So he's running like a mini Twitter.
sort of. He's also uh, he has a law practice. So he has this blog on asking or answering a lot of law related questions. So that's his main focus. The coffee business is pretty much his side hustle.
That's very interesting. This place sounds cool.
Do you have a lot of entrepreneurial people in India?
As a percentage, no, but they aren't very rare either. There are some entrepreneurs in India, but usually entrepreneurs in India are, they don't think so big. So if you ask the average person when he wants to start a business, he thinks it's more like a retail shop, or some trading business where he's going to buy something from China and just sell it. When there's no innovation in there, there are very few people in India who are thinking in an innovative way where they're trying to come up with something new. Or there are certain places where tech is very big. So in those places, yeah, there are a lot of tech entrepreneurs, but the general public doesn't really try to innovate too much. I think innovation is something that's more of a white person thing, in the sense that white people tend to really value entrepreneurship and innovation, and people in the East, like in India, people here tend to be more conservative, even in this regard, where, let's say there's a parent, okay, so the parent will typically tell the kid that he should go for something safe like a job or like working for the government, rather than do something very risky like starting a business, especially starting a very new thing that has completely unproven.
Were your parents cool with that?
More or less. But I was always a very different kid, so I was never like the other kids.
Hmm.
So for me, they kind of expected me to go into business, because I it would have been very difficult for anyone to conceive of someone like me to work for anyone else.
Were you a troublemaker in school?
Not exactly, but I was not, if I thought something was wrong, I would not agree to it. And I wasn't someone who was, how do I put it?
Agreeable?
Yeah, agreeable, but there's also another word, subordinate. I wasn't subordinate to people.
Right.
So it was just, if someone knew my nature when I was a teenager as well, like they could just tell that this guy will start a business. So that's what happened. I started a business. And but yeah, I haven't really met a lot of people like me. Indians are generally very agreeable and timid, and they don't typically start their own businesses.
Well, what I do recall is that a lot of my Desi friends, Indian, Pakistani, Bengali, they're typically, choosing from being either engineer or doctor. And doctor is like that golden standard for a lot of Desi families. And I had this one friend who was pretty much on the verge of becoming a doctor, but around his final couple of, I would say, months or years, they have to do a thing called residency, I think.
Hmm.
He was having second thoughts. He wanted to become a video game developer. And when he told his parents that, they were yelling at him. They're like, "What are you talking about? You're supposed to be a doctor. It's always been your dream to be a doctor." And he's like,
I love that. That's so Indian. The parent telling the kid what the dream is.
oh, that's when he's like, "It was never my dream, mom and dad. It was your dream." I just pictured just some dramatic music playing in my mind.
That's really funny, though. So, what came of it? What did the guy end up doing?
So he ended up dropping out and starting his own video game. Uh, I don't know what he does exactly, but I do know he's doing pretty well at this point. I think he consults with different gaming firms or he creates some designs and does freelancing for them. But it's a night and day difference from what he was planning on doing. But suddenly, that entrepreneurial bug hit him and he had to change it up last minute.
Hmm.
And in the medicine field, it's not like you're just going to school for 4 years. I think you're going to school for what, 10 plus years or so, including residency, getting training, and all of that extra stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. 10 years of school. No. Could you?
Hell no, man. When I was in my master's graduation, I remember they were trying to sell us on a PhD. They were like, and who's ready to come back to get their PhD?
It's an upsell, yeah.
She was trying to upsell us, dude. And back then, I didn't understand the business side of college, but nowadays, so many things make sense.
you
Are
know,
more people? Go ahead.
who's gonna come back for a PhD? I feel like this is an advertisement.
And a lot of positions, not all positions, but there are few positions where if you're a PhD in the US market, you're overqualified and you reduce your chances of getting jobs. It's much better to stop at master's level. And one thing
How does that
you
work
have
though? If
something.
someone has a PhD, they can just say that I have a master's and get the job.
See, that's what I thought, but I went to this one event a couple of years ago, and there was this one guy at the event who looked all bummed out, and he told me that his dad wasn't able to get a job for where he wanted to go. And when you're investing in a PhD, in your mind, you're thinking you're going to make a certain amount. So you getting paid, I would say, less than what you think you deserve may make you be like, well, I'm going to wait until I get paid what I'm worth. And this may cause more resistance. So I,
Hmm.
so I think you can technically just say, oh, okay, I have a master's. You don't have to pay me PhD amount. But
Yeah,
other
but you
people,
expect
pride
more
gets
money.
in.
I see. I have to ask, how much does the average PhD get paid in the US?
It definitely has to be over six figures,
No,
depending
per
on
hour, if you go with per hour, because I have something interesting here.
per hour. Man, I don't know the per hour actually. Let me check.
My friend, who is a business associate of mine, He hires a guy who has a PhD in English as a
Mm-hmm.
proofreader, and he pays him $25 an hour. And that is really low because I was expecting something way higher, but apparently PhDs are very cheap to hire. And moreover, I pay people more than 25 bucks an hour, and these people aren't even that well educated. So I have a guy who narrates audiobooks, and I pay this narrator about $100 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy has been paying a PhD $25 an hour.
Well, I'm googling it right now. It says that I don't know which particular degree this is, but it says $51. That they said that's typically the range.
I see. So that's not super high, like you can make so much more money on the internet without having to have a PhD or any like insane amounts of formal education. If you have a good skill that you can help people with, people will pay you more. So like the guy who makes audiobooks, and I have a graphic designer, web designers make even more than $50 an hour. Like a good web designer can make like $500 an hour because like a website he might charge like $5,000 for might only take 10 hours to make. So, yeah, I don't think more formal education is the way to go. If your goal is just to make more money or have more fun, if you want to do something like you want to become like a heart surgeon or something, then maybe you need like a ton of education or some kind of nuclear scientists. But for most skills, I don't really think it matters. It's really about having the skill and finding a way to sell it on the internet.
Man, that's a slap in the face when you spend so many years getting a PhD and then you hear that a person who's narrating your audiobook makes almost double what you make.
Yeah, because the
Well,
guy
on a
who's
per hour
making the
basis.
audiobook is actually adding value to a business. Well, this guy learned about the meaning of a preposition, which really isn't that valuable. So it's not really about how much you study, it's about what value you can add to and anyone, if you are say looking for a job, then how much value can you add to a business? Because I'm not running a charity, correct? I have to manage my expenses, and I can only pay you so much. Like the upper limit of what I can pay you is the value you are generating, and ideally I would pay you much less than that because I have to keep a margin. So if I don't care about whether you're educated, you could be like the completely uneducated person who only went to middle school, and if you can provide me something that can help me make more money or make my business more efficient, then I'm happy to pay you a lot. But if you're providing a simple service that doesn't really add that much value and that is easily replaceable by someone else, then I will not pay you a lot. And it's that simple. And people are very
Well,
surprised that
it's,
they expect more education to equal more money, but that's really not the case everywhere.
it's interesting that you say that, Harsh, because I have been converting a lot of my Amazon books into audiobooks as well. And have you heard of ACX?
I don't use it because Amazon has very bad business terms. So Amazon wants like 75% of the sales.
Right. So with ACX, there's this one part where you could interview different narrators
Hmm.
to see who you want on your project. So you make your posting live, you give a small little script that you want these voices to read, and they read it. And I recall there was this one guy who was getting all fancy with it. He was talking about, I have done this particular book, I have done this particular cartoon, I have done these particular different shows. And I'm like, bro, just read the damn script and let me decide if your voice fits the Armani Talks brand book or not. And there was another guy who was an up and comer and he read the book perfectly. And I thought, man, this guy is not as qualified as the first guy, but I'm going to work with him because he knows how to follow the order and he's giving me that skill that I'm looking for. So for me personally, I don't really care about too much of your background. I'm looking at, can you get the job done or not?
Hmm. So I have to ask Arman, how come you're not narrating your own books? Because you have a great voice and you don't have the accent issue.
So this is something that I may do down the line, Harsh, but the whole process of narrating, there's a process, there's a learning curve. You got to get certain technologies set up. You got to work on different features. I did look into it, and I have made it in a way where maybe down the line, once I set up a full blown studio where it can easily meet the ACX requirements, then I could redo these books. But for the time being, Harsh, I have a lot of these ideas and grand books that I want to make in the upcoming years, and it's more so a time issue.
I see, yeah, I have the same issue as well. It's there's so much you want to do, but there's not enough time in the day to do it all. How do you handle that though?
So for me personally, Harsh, I focus on what the bigger picture is. And I wrote this on my newsletter a couple of weeks back where I said that my dream for Armani Talks is literally just to focus on the ideas. Everything else I want to outsource. So, something like this, me and you speaking right now, I like to do stuff like this. And this is the kind of stuff that I enjoy doing for Armani Talks. But what I don't enjoy doing is going through the entire podcast, putting the
Yeah,
timestamps,
editing it.
finding the record. Yeah, writing the description, putting in the keywords. I don't want to do that. That's stuff that I want to outsource. So nowadays, I'm making most of my moves with that in mind. How can I keep maximizing the process of getting more creative in terms of ideas? And how can I get the right people in my team to do the stuff that I don't want to do? Like, I am awful in terms of graphic arts design. And you could tell from our first thumbnails from Unapologetic Truths versus now, right? The
Hmm.
first few I made. And these aren't the stuff that I want to do. So nowadays, Harsh, I pretty much structure my business in a very simple way. I have a four-step formula: consume, create, market, meditate. So consumption is when I'm learning. Every single day, I'm either watching my old content back, I'm probably reading a book, watching an interview, something like that. Create is publishing daily something, either on my YouTube, my blog, my podcast, writing a chapter in a book, etc. Market is where it's not just enough for me and you to talk. I have to publish this on Friday. That's the making people aware of the content. And meditate is when I just turn off all technology and just focus on one target over and over to keep my mind sharp and build concentration. So those are my four most important tasks for the day.
I see. So what do you think the future of the Armani Talks brand is? What are you trying to do in the future?
So my goal, Harsh, is to make this a media company where it consistently publishes short stories that deals with soft skills. And a few of the soft skills that the Armani Talks brand focuses on is public speaking, storytelling, social skills, emotional resilience, creative writing, and concentration. I want to create more short form content on that through the mediums of books, blogs, audiobooks, podcasts, etc. And that's pretty much what the model is growing towards. I don't want to just be known as a guy that's a guy who tweets or a guy who just does YouTube videos. I want it to be more so this universe that's a media company, but it's more particularly for short stories.
I see. So do you in the future ever plan on doing something like a community of real people who meet up in real life and discuss and help each other, like kind of your own version of Toastmasters for social skills?
Man, Toastmasters should give me a check, man, because I have recruited so many people from around the world into that club. So who knows, man? Maybe down the line, me and Toastmasters can work out some sort of deal and we could see that part. But managing the community, Harsh, I mean, if I have someone else that's helping me with the logistics and stuff, then sure, I could see that being a, a situation where, do you know, Kanye West.
He's some kind of singer. I have seen memes of him. I haven't heard his music much.
Yeah, so he's a rapper, but nowadays he's known for his shoes called Yeezys. So I believe he thinks of the ideas for the shoes, and I think it's either Nike or Adidas who fulfills it. So he doesn't have to focus too much on the small little details. He could focus on the bigger picture stuff. So if there's an organization like Toastmasters or another organization in the future that can take care of the logistics, like setting up an event page, putting in the descriptions, sending the invites, etc., then I personally would not mind creating something offline as well. That's something that I am going to consider more in the near future.
I think you should because you could even charge for it. Like I would pay 500 to $1,000 just to go to an event with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I bet a lot of people would. If it's like, the only issue with physical events is that let's say that you are living in where do you live? You said I don't remember Tampa or something.
Tampa,
Yeah,
yes.
your audience is scattered across the world, but only a very very small portion of your audience lives around and in or around Tampa. So it's actually very difficult to get a critical mass of people because let's say your best followers are people who will actually pay for your event. You need like 50 people to pay for the event to happen, but those 50 people don't live near Tampa. So that's really difficult. That requires like a very big audience. So if you take someone like Jordan Peterson, if he did an event, then a lot of people will come. But if you take the average guy with 10,000 followers, his followers are so distributed across the world that in a particular city, he might only have 100 people who know of him, and of which only maybe one will pay.
Interesting. That's something that I'll definitely look into. For me personally, Harsh, from the way that I've thought about it, like I like communities, but I don't like communities that much. Where for me, the Armani Talks brand is highly decentralized on the front end and is highly centralized in the back end. And I think we all have that one place that we own, where for you, it's Telegram, right? Where most of your core audience is there.
Telegram, my Twitter is my biggest platform, but Twitter is more of a rented platform in the sense that, especially with their new CEO who looks like a complete soy boy, there's a very
Oh,
good
does he?
chance, Parag or something,
Uh
and
huh.
the guy's total soy. Like he has been talking about why he doesn't. He's actually made a speech or something about him not wanting to be bound by free speech and why he wants to go in a different direction. So there's a very strong chance we will see more censorship from him. So I no longer think of Twitter as an important platform for me because, I might get banned at any point of time. So I think my most important or my the platforms I really own and control are my email list, of course, because no one can take that away, and my website.
And your website's been crushing it.
It's been growing really fast, although I haven't published anything in the last month because I was very busy with the decentralized finance course.
And for me, Harsh, I mean, there was that one idea that you gave me in the beginning of our interaction, which I think you got from Thomas or someone like that, where you said that the content is sort of like the flyer. And
Who's
I don't know if you
Thomas?
said the Thomas Bevan.
Oh, I remember that guy. Is he still around? I haven't spoken to him in years now.
I'm not too sure. I just remember you said that that was his name when you told me the idea
Ah,
that
yeah.
content,
Content is the
yeah, like,
flyer.
yeah, it's the
Twitter is the
flyer.
flyer, and the blog is the. I no longer believe that to be true.
You don't think that's to be true? Why not?
So when I look at, if you take LMM as a business, okay, and I'm not talking about from a helping people sensor. I mean like just as a business. If you take from a business perspective, when you look at revenue, you get more money from different social media and Telegram and your email list than you do from your blog. So If you are in a situation where the flyer is making more money than the actual show, then the idea that social media is just the flyer no longer holds to be true. So, from a
So
business perspective, I no longer agree with this, but I do think that if the social media did not exist, then far fewer people will be on Life Math Money, the blog. So, it is true in that sense, but from a business perspective, it is not true.
so for me it's been different where I've made most of my money through my email list,
Yeah, but how do people get on your email list?
through Twitter, podcast, blog, and guest interviews that I do.
Oh, so you're saying that you make more money from your email list than you do from social media.
Correct.
How much do you market on social media though? Because Twitter is like, it's very easy to make money on Twitter. Like, you want to make money, just tweet. It's that simple. Just tweet about some product. I usually tweet about my own products because I know they're very, very high quality because I made them. But it's that simple on Twitter.
Yes, and I do agree with you that where I have made a significant amount of money from Twitter, and I have gotten a lot of my clients who discovered me through Twitter. But still, just looking 5 to 10 years down into the future, just the way that Twitter and all these different algorithms change so much, I would say people who want to stay updated with the Armani Talks brand, the newsletter is like the king and the heart of my brand, where people become more solidified with my ideas. They can see me more in long form. I get most of my clients there, book sales there, ideas for future products, etc. And I do think, Harsh, it really comes down to what someone's intent is. Where I think you're doing a smart job in diversifying. Where you have Twitter. Do you still do Instagram?
Yes, so I have a Python script. And what this script does is it goes on Twitter, it searches for my latest tweets, it screenshots the tweet, and then it puts it on Instagram. So it's all automatic, but I do Instagram technically.
Okay, so you're pretty much getting traffic from multiple different sources, and I'm sure different people are sharing your content, and you're getting a lot of referral as well.
Correct, it's grown linearly over time. Although I do intend on growing my YouTube more and more and more from now.
Oh
And I'm
snap!
also trying to get an audience into that's beyond self improvement. So I'm trying to get into crypto with the crypto course. So I'm trying to expand my audience a lot because that's really the way forward. You have to reach more people. And if Twitter is going to limit your growth and basically put you at risk of being banned at any moment, then it you have to diversify. And YouTube and Instagram and Twitter are the way to go for me.
So what is okay? So would you say that's the future for your brand?
The near future, maybe in the next year, I don't know what it would look like in 2024. And that's simply because, this space moves really, really fast. So when I started Twitter, I thought I would get 10,000 followers in a couple of years. That was my
A
goal. And
couple
I,
of years.
yeah, and I ended up hitting that in like 3 months, 3 or 6 months, I think. So the space moves really fast and things change very, very fast. So a platform that's working well might just stop working, or a platform that's not working at all might just blow up. So the plan is for the next year, I want to focus more on YouTube and growing more than just Twitter. But let's see how things look like 5 years from now.
You ever see yourself having some sort of LinkedIn presence?
When I stopped being a non, then yes. So I made a LinkedIn account. And what happened to me on LinkedIn was that they deleted my account saying that you're not allowed to have a pseudonym and you have to have your real name.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so LinkedIn has this weird, but I get it, that's what their thing is. But I do know a lot of people who make a lot of good money from LinkedIn, especially as freelancers. So what happens on LinkedIn is that a lot of people there are business owners. So if you can say or show people that you are great at writing or some other skill, then a lot of business owners will reach out to you asking you to do the skill for them. So if you are great at copywriting and you can show people you're great at copywriting on LinkedIn, then people who own businesses will just DM you asking if you can do their page, and they offer like great money. So I know people who make a lot of money freelancing with LinkedIn. I think there's a girl called Shreya Pattar, and she has a book. She recently released a book called Mastering LinkedIn or something. Let me check. I bought her book. I haven't read it yet, but I know she does really well. So if someone's interested in doing that, they can check it out. Wait, let me confirm this. Our book is called, just a sec. I'm going on Gumroad. It's called Cashing In on LinkedIn, and it's on Gumroad.
And you're taking that, you're reading the book right now?
I have the book. I just bought it to support her. I don't really intend to read the book because I can't get on LinkedIn anyway. So what's the point?
I notice you subtly do that. You'll buy other people's products. And for example, I remember one time, it was for Charisma King. I think that was a particular book. I got a notification from it, and I noticed it was from Life Math Money. I was like, "Oh, damn, that's pretty dope." Life Math Money supported the book, and I think this is when we were sort of getting to know each other, but we didn't really know each other too deeply. But I noticed you subtly support other people's products.
It's because there's what are most people on the internet doing? They're fucking around and they're not really helping people. But every once in a while, you do find someone who is trying to add value to people, and it makes sense to support them. It's like giving back, like a thank you for what you're doing.
Yes, and that's what friends are able to do. Where when I have a friend who's starting a business, I go out of my way to ask, "Yo, what is it that I can do to help you out?" The last thing I'm asking for is, "Can you please give me a discount? Please, I am your friend." And some friend circles are like that, where they're just begging the other person for a discount just because they're friends.
Yeah, it's generally not a good thing to ask for a discount because it kind of reduces your self respect in a way. And usually, if your friend starts a business, the best thing is to just buy something at full price. And I know that because, I'm in a business now, and I really appreciate everyone who supported me when I was just starting out. So yeah, if your friend starts a business, don't ask for a discount. Just buy at full price. And if you get offered a discount and you want to take it, that's up to you. But don't ask for it. How
Do
has
your
your
friends
go ahead?
do your friends know you have a business?
I do more than just life math money. So yeah, they know that I do affiliate marketing. I do internet marketing, to be honest, affiliate marketing. But people don't really understand what affiliate marketing is. So I tell them it's internet marketing. It's one of those things, people are just so behind. They have no idea what's happening on the internet. They think internet is just YouTube and jerking off to porn or whatever. They can't even
Hmm.
imagine making money off the net. So when I tell them I'm into affiliate marketing, you can see a question mark on their face. Like, what is this? And I don't want to waste my time answering questions. So I just tell them I work on the internet or something very vague like internet marketing.
Yeah, and you answer the question for, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes, and then they'll summarize your point, and they still have it completely wrong. Like, man, were you even listening to me?
Yeah, it kind of you want to do that initially when you're just starting out because you're so excited about it and you're passionately explaining what you do. But after a while, it gets tiring. Like I just sell things on the internet. Like that suffices.
Well, my personal goal with Armani Talks in the initial stages was to keep this separate from my personal life, where I focused on Armani Talks. And then personal life, if people asked, I'd bring it up, but it's not something that I'm over here trying to tell people. But what happened was a lot of people somehow just organically discovered it. And a lot of people, when I was thinking about it, have been highly supportive, especially people that I thought would be over here turning into a joke fest. Like, oh, Armani does this, but they were supportive. They're like, dude, I watch all of your YouTube videos. I listen to your podcast with that fellow, Harsh Strongman, and my parents consume the content. So that's not something that I was initially expecting, which is definitely different because in the beginning stages, that was not even in my perspective at all. I thought the two worlds were going to be completely different. And nowadays, I see them gradually merging.
Hmm. I think that's a natural progression of things. I think that at some point you leave your old identity behind and you become your brand.
Yeah, and I would say I'm pretty much the same guy online and offline,
No,
where
but I
people
bet
are,
when you started, it was a bit of an exaggeration.
well, in the beginning stages. So here's what I've noticed: it's similar with public speaking, where in the beginning, you're trying to find out who you are, and more importantly, you're trying to create who you are. So certain things you're saying is kind of like
Who you want to be.
that feeling, right? It's that feeling out process where you're like, okay, no, this sounds right. No, this doesn't sound right. Because nowadays, Harsh, when I'm consuming my old content from, let's say, 2019 or even 2018, I'm thinking, man, is that really me? Because now you can see your evolution in real time.
Definitely. I had an assistant of mine pull up all of my tweets from all the way from 2018. And what I was trying to do was I was trying to create an audiobook of my tweets. And I was selecting which tweets to include, and I was reading all my older tweets, and I don't agree with a lot of them anymore. So I think of it as personal growth. So not that I disagree with everything I said, I just feel like I was missing a lot of nuance back then. And
Any
now,
particular tweet come to mind?
yeah, for example, when I say earlier, like I remember tweeting this a lot of times, was I used to think fat people are fat because they're stupid and they don't really understand the fact that if they want to lose weight, they have to eat less. And I still believe that to an extent, but I also have a better understanding of when you are habitual to eating food, you will feel hungry even though you've eaten a lot. And that's what these guys' entire existence has been. And since it's been that way for many, many years, they have forgotten what it was like to be normal. So they think this is normal. They think eating continuously is normal. So it isn't really a decision based on IQ, but more of what you consider to be normal. And people who are fat are usually just mindlessly following their instincts. Like they feel hungry, they eat, and they feel hungry again, they eat, and they feel hungry again, they eat. And they never stop feeling hungry because they have trained themselves to continuously eat. And that is something that I did not appreciate back in 2018. And a lot of things like this, I think I was just missing more nuance, which I have gained over the past 3 4 years. And I think that is just normal. I think if you are not doing that, then that means something has gone wrong and you're not improving, you are stagnating.
Absolutely. There's people that are like, I haven't changed my mind in 10 years. I'm thinking, man, bro, that's not something to say out loud. You should be changing your mind if the right information is presented. And as you're growing up, I doubt a person has all the answers at a certain age. So they should be reevaluating certain positions.
I remember reading this quote from Charlie Munger where he says that we know a hell lot more than we did 5 years ago. And I think this guy said this quote when he was like 80 years old or something. And, so this guy, when you think from our perspective, I'm 25, I think you're around the same age. 75 and 80 are the same age for us. 75 and 80 are the same age. But for this guy, he says that he has learned a hell lot more in the past 5 years. So it's see, if you are always learning and trying to get better, then this seems like a lifelong process.
Yes.
Tell me,
For a
what is something that you thought was correct back in 2018 or before, which you think you were wrong about?
One thing harsh has been more so in terms of the delivery, where I also did something similar where I had pulled up a lot of my old tweets. And I noticed that back in the days, I used to curse a lot more. And it's not like I don't curse nowadays. Every now and then I do, but I have taken a different approach where I don't curse as much because the more that I've evolved, I've gotten different DMs from different followers, different email messages where people are like, I watch your YouTube videos with my kids every Saturday. And if I'm over here dropping F bombs nonstop, it's just at the back of my mind. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And a part of me, as I was talking about, where the two worlds are merging more, where Armani talks, there's a lot of personal life people that know about it. I mean, down the road, when I have kids, for example, or great grandkids, or great grandkids, because information doesn't corrode, if they're over here seeing their great grandpa dropping F bombs nonstop, it's probably going to distort the message to a certain degree. Where nowadays, I'm more aware. It's not like I don't curse, but I'm more deliberate in terms of when I do drop certain words. And I think this has been a progression where if you told me this 2 to 3 years ago, it's not something that my raw energy would have been able to understand because I was still trying to create the voice. But nowadays, I understand it to a larger degree. And by changing the dynamic a little bit more, I've been able to think differently as well and alter the delivery style. So that's one thing that I would say I've changed since our first interaction.
I see. But do you find yourself changing like a major opinion you used to have back in the day?
So for me, changing a major opinion, I wouldn't say I know too many opinions like that yet. However, I have softened up certain opinions where in the beginning stages, I was very harsh on victim mindset people. People that constantly point fingers and are like, man, why aren't you taking care of me? And they're nitpicking people that are successful. Where nowadays, it's not like I condone their behavior by any means, but I do understand that changing the mind, it's a difficult process. And I come to understand that victors are rare. Or guys like you and me who, or just our side of Twitter in general, it's probably 0.0001% of the entire Twitter sphere. So nowadays, I'm more aware in regards to that.
That might not be true. If you take Twitter, like if you run the numbers, the percentage is higher.
Oh, is it higher? What do you think it is?
I think the status of Twitter's monthly active audience is about 350 million. And I would bet we have 1 million people in our sphere. I have 250,000 to 60,000 people who follow me. Or if you take bigger accounts like Zuby or even Peterson, I would bet there's like 1 or 2 million people. So if you want to be charitable and say that some of them haven't found us yet or combine people's unique followings, I would say 0.75% of people on Twitter are like us. Or not like us in the sense that at least they're interested in self improvement.
Oh, that's good news then.
See, I have a very mathy brain. When someone says a statistic, I actually try to calculate.
Oh, I made up the number completely. It was just an arbitrary number that I was throwing out there. But it's good that the number is higher than it once was. And the more that I realized, what was the number you said, like 0.02% or
0.75,
something?
0.75.
Yeah, and 0.75%, you superimpose this into the real world. A lot of people are not thinking like us. So nowadays, one thing that I do more often is give general advice as well. It's not normally just centered around leveling up. It's other things to be social. Stay updated with the culture. You don't have to completely vilify all mainstream narratives. And even if the narratives are to be vilified, which, trust me, I do not agree with a whole bunch of them, I still think being aware is important because now you can converse with other people. If you're a guy, for example, and all you do is just improve your life and you don't know much about what's happening around you, then let's say you're going on a date or some sort of social event and you're over here just talking about your interests, that's not going to be pleasant. So I would say I've always created more content for the general. That's what the Armani Talks brand is about. But nowadays, I try to highlight the importance of understanding that not everyone thinks like us.
You know, that's a big mistake that people who think like us actually make. They assume that everyone wants to self improve. And I will tell you, I'll give you an example, okay? If you go to any performance where like friends are singing or whatever, okay? People like us, your general instinct would be to give them advice on what they're doing wrong and how to improve. Because our presumption is that this guy wants feedback so that he can get better. And most people just get annoyed by that because they think you're criticizing them. They don't want to get better, they were just trying to have fun.
Hmm.
So, in my experience, unless you know someone who is into self improvement or, they ask you for feedback, you're best off just telling them that they're doing well.
Yes, I actually wrote a tweet on the matter, similar to what you just said. I said, beware of giving too much feedback to someone who didn't ask. From your mind, you care. From their mind, you're nitpicking.
Exactly. And these are things, you learn over time. Like, I did not know this 3 years ago. This is something that I learned from experience over a long period of time.
And that's why I find value in those accounts that show their losses as well. Because if you're over here deifying yourself too much and all you're doing is winning, winning, and winning some more, then I can't learn much from you. I like those accounts that talked about messing up and how they learned from it anyways. It's more relatable.
I think to an extent, yes. I do think that a lot of these accounts tend to, you know, go to the realm of like, I was born as an extremely poor kid and I'm a trillionaire now, so you can buy my course level. Like, I was just like you and now I'm this, buy my course. So sometimes it's true, like, sometimes it really is true, but it really depends.
What kind of accounts earn your follow?
I like accounts that are adding some new conversation or some new value or some type of insight from experience rather than people who are just copy pasting my own stuff or aren't really adding that much value. Or I like account. So if you take someone like Naval is a good great account to follow, and his advice comes from real world experience. Like Srinivasan Balaji, yeah, that guy's too. Tell your son this. His advice is really really good. Comes from experience, and it's very unique. You won't find it anywhere else. Even the Rational Mail is like that, and a lot of newer accounts I've seen. Like there's a bunch of newer accounts like Masculinity Rediscovered and The Lover's Guide, and all of these accounts, they're adding something new to the conversation that I haven't seen before being discussed. But there are a lot of copy paste accounts as well who I don't follow. Or so there's this type of account that I like. There's also accounts I like that are more humorous or making fun, like boys, like, guys posting their wins or girls posting their losses. Like that is really funny. Or Babylon B, which is making satirical news, which is turning out to be not so satirical as it's actually becoming true.
Hmm.
Um, there are also guys I follow, like you know, who talk mostly politics, but I don't really read their tweets. I have them on mute usually, and I just follow them just to maintain the relationship. Yeah, I don't particularly care about politics. Like, I don't even know who the president of India is. Like, I just don't care.
Do people hit you up and they're like, "Yo, Life Math Money, when am I gonna get a follow?"
Yeah, those guys I don't follow.
I never asked you, but I was meaning to ask you. Let me just see how much followers you have nowadays. How is it mentally having a Twitter account which has 260,000 followers? Do you get bombarded with a lot of messages, or how is it like? Because I do remember you running a post on the matter when you had less followers.
Have you used WhatsApp before?
Yes,
You have this thing, no, WhatsApp status, and it tells you how many people have seen this.
it does. I
Yeah.
normally do one on one.
But
I don't do
it,
group
it
chats there.
has the ability to where you can set a status, and it'll tell you how many people have seen your post, okay, on WhatsApp. And
Hmm.
I did that a while ago for some event or something, and it had like 300 people who saw it. It was showing me the number, and for me it wasn't just registering like 300, like what, that's super low for me. And
Hmm.
it just wasn't registering because I'm used to posting something and having like 30, 50, 80, 90, 250,000 people see it, or sometimes even in the millions. So for me that number wasn't making sense. But really, humans, or even everyone in general, we can't really think in numbers so big. So for me, 250,000 is just a number now. It's not 250,000 people listening to me, because that's impossible to visualize. I can't visualize that. So when my follow count was 700, I could actually visualize 700 people, but 250,000 is just an abstract number.
Hmm. Because when you're over here giving a best man speech at a wedding, that's roughly around 300 to 350 people. And when you're giving that speech live, that's a lot of people for you. You know what I'm saying? That's an event. And nowadays, when you're trying to picture, oh, whoa, I have way more multiples of that people following me on a Twitter account, your mind actually can't process that.
Yeah, it's something your mind was not built for. Like, historically, you'd never had to deal with so many people. Like, unless you were the king or something, but those guys were so rare that it didn't factor into our genetics. Like the average, like, we did not evolve to be thinking in millions of people. I think the statistic is that the average village, there's a number of how many relationships you can hold, and I think the number is like 150. There's a number, like some. The idea is that the average village, you would know if you live in a village, like a small village, you know everyone in the village, and
Hmm.
there's only so many people whose names you can remember, and who you can actually know outside of just knowing their name, in the sense that when you know a person, you know what they like, dislike, and how they are. And there's only so many people you can know like that, and I think the number is about 150. So a quarter million is just incomprehensible to me, at least. So for me, it's just a number. I just tweet for what I want to tweet. I want to help people, but I don't particularly think about the number, because it is impossible to think about the number.
I think that is a good insight to know because uh, from your perspective, it's just another number. But let's say someone is just starting out their Twitter account. For them, they see something colossal and they can't perceive how you could possibly think it's just a number. But from your life, since you're actually experiencing it, it really is just a number at this point. It doesn't influence your tweets or anything.
It's really like what you said, Arman. You remember the Indian guys who were thinking this party is mind blowing, and for you it was just normal. It's like that. So for me, it's
Yes.
just I'm used to tweeting to a lot of people now, so I don't really think about it. But for someone who's new, for them it might give them some performance anxiety.
And a lot of negativity gets engaged as well, where they're thinking that if they say something stupid, now 250,000 people are just going to be pointing their fingers and laughing.
It's
Where
fine,
you're like, who cares?
Who cares? See, it's like if you are big in any sphere, okay, if you have like a large number of people who have their eyes on you, a significant portion of them are not going to like you, and that's okay. And it's just how it is. Like, even if you take a politician, they have like a 50% approval rating. So 50% of people really don't like them, and that's fine. As long as you're doing what you want, you're happy in your life, why does it matter what other people think? It doesn't. So it's just one of
And
those things you have to get used to.
those people who hate you, they'll look for the most random reason to hate you as well.
Yeah, I think
Where,
it usually is when people hate you, it's usually a reflection of their own life. Because why would you hate someone on the internet? Like, I don't see myself hating someone on the internet ever, because why would I do that? I would just ignore them and live my life and do what I want to do. So when people vehemently hate you, where they go out of their way to post some negative tweet, you know their life is not going well, because if it was, why would they do it?
hmm
So, what is your perspective on this? Do you find yourself seeing a lot of haters, or do you find yourself being able to comprehend your follow count?
well, I could comprehend it at this point, Harsh, because it's not colossal or anything like that, like yours.
How much
And
is it
for
now?
me,
I don't remember.
I think it's at like 40,000 or something.
That is big. Like, imagine a room of 40,000 people. That is
Oh, yeah,
big. You can't
absolutely.
visualize it. I don't think you can. At least I cannot.
Well, here's how it works, and I'm sure you've noticed it too, where yes, you have 40,000 people following you, but each tweet, for example,
Yeah, it
is not
doesn't
seen by
reach all of
40,000
them,
people.
correct. It used to be
Right.
the case that it would, but nowadays it isn't.
Yeah, and since I tweet a good amount, where I pretty much treat the Armani Talks Twitter page sort of like a journal, I get my impressions spread out through each tweet. So it's not like a colossal amount of people are even looking at each tweet. So for me, for the most part, it's been rather a normal experience. And another thing with the Armani Talks brand is that it's not, I would say, anything that's controversial. It's actually the things that unify human beings. I think most of the content that I cover was relevant 2000 years ago, as well as it will be relevant 2000 years from now, such as learning how to speak, writing efficiently, learning how to hear properly, not interrupting others. These are core skill sets that are not trendy or anything. They're fundamental skill sets. So, thus far, I haven't had too many haters. I have had some, but it hasn't been enough for me to take notice.
Usually it's best to just block them. It just, or mute them or something and let them have you speak into the void. I have a couple of people who were essentially sending me hate emails telling me like this tweet is bad and you're an idiot and whatever. So I decided to block them. So when you block someone on Gmail, what happens is that their emails directly go into your spam folder. Like, you can still read those emails, but they end up in spam. And like it was like a year ago, and I was just checking my spam folder like recently, like a couple of days ago, and these guys are still sending me email, and that is so funny.
What are they saying?
Oh, it was just crap. Like, they were like quote a tweet and saying this is moronic or whatever, and they were like going to a paragraph of why this is nonsense. And it's usually some kind of crap like this is sexist, misogynistic, whatever. And that was a year. Like, this guy has been messaging me for a year, and I
Was a
didn't
guy?
even know he existed. I don't know. I assume. So I did not even know he was alive. I just blocked him when his first email came, and then I was clearing my spam out a few days ago, and here he is.
What a loser. Let me
It's
ask you, Harsh, are there certain comments or names that you're called which do get under your skin? Let's say misogynist, for example.
Not really. Misogynist is a funny one because I am actually not a misogynist in the sense that I like women and I want to help them and I am helping women. It's just that feminists think what is actually good for women is bad for women. So, women want to have children and they want to be married and they want a family. That is what most women want. But feminists think women want, a career, and they think saying women wanting a family is hateful of women. So I don't particularly care about that label. I don't think any of those labels hurt me. My life is, to be honest, and I'm not trying to brag here, but my life is just so good and I make too much money, and I don't work all that much and I spend enough time with my family, and my nutrition and fitness is on point. My life is just so good that I really don't really care about what people on the internet have to say for me, because I know I'm helping out so many people. And usually the gratitude to hate ratio is 10 is to 1, so I'll get 10 messages from people telling me how much I've helped them, or I helped them start their business, or I helped them lose weight, or I helped them, raise their children better, or my crypto course really helped them, or whatever. So the gratitude to hate ratio is like 10 is to 1. So it really doesn't matter.
I wish more people thought like that because I was watching this one prankster couple of
Does something
weeks
get
ago.
under your skin?
The what?
Is there a term which goes under your skin?
No. Um, I don't want to brag or anything either. We're over here going on a bragging fest. No, but for me personally, dude, I take pride in the ability to ignore things that do not benefit me because I think there's multiple paths towards building thick skin. Three to be
Hmm.
exact. One is to do difficult tasks. Two is to do nothing. And three is to build a sense of humor. Although one seems like the most difficult, where
Can you
you're doing
repeat
tough
one?
stuff.
Sorry, can you repeat what you said for one?
Yeah, so one is doing difficult tasks. Like, let's say you hate public speaking and now you are
Like breaking a
practicing public
comfort
speaking.
zone.
Yes, this builds thick skin over time. It does wonders for your confidence. But the second one is highly potent, where you do nothing. Let's say I call you, let's say I'm over here calling you an idiot throughout this entire podcast, and you have to exercise restraint and you try to keep the podcast going without insulting me back. That's going to require a whole bunch of restraint. However, if you do it correctly, it's going to build thick skin. And humor is just self explanatory. If someone's over here making fun of you and you turn them into a joke, either mentally or you're just joking at them, another way to build thick skin. So I take a lot of pride in that, Harsh, where I believe I've done difficult tasks. I've ignored the right people where I opted not for revenge. And, your boy thinks he's a funny guy every now and then, where I've been able to cultivate that thick skin where nothing really gets under my skin. And I think that leads for more creativity. I channel a lot of emotions into the Armani Talks brand. So good, bad emotions, it doesn't really matter to me. And here's a weird thing that I do. I think every now and then when I do get, let's say, a hate comment or something, every now and then I will screenshot it because for some reason it makes me more creative. Where I have the gratitude comments, the mean comments. At this point, I still haven't blocked a single account because these people give me more energy. So nothing really gets under my skin. And, well, not that I'm aware of yet, but that's a long answer to your question. No.
I really love what you said. The ability to ignore things that don't benefit me. That's incredible, people need to think like that.
There was this one time, this semi big account, and I don't want to name drop him or anything, was pretty much attacking me. He was saying that, oh, Armani Talks is not a good account. He sucks. And he's basically just name calling me a lot. And this was the era, I don't know if you remember, where there were certain accounts that were egging on bigger accounts to block them. So he was basically trying to get me to block them. And a lot of his followers were pretty much coming on my tweets talking about how idiotic my tweets are. And I never blocked the guy. So a couple of days starts to go on by, and this time this semi big account tags me, and he's like, "No block, no response, much respect from Armani Talks," and all his little minions starts to say, "Yeah, yeah, it takes restraint not to block and not to respond back." And I thought how hilarious this was. Because imagine if I did respond back to this guy going on this verbal warfare. I don't gain anything because I'm over here giving this man clout and he gains a lot and I lose energy. Where I did the opposite. I didn't say anything back. And ironically, this ended up getting his respect more. So human emotions work in strange ways. It's not the same rules of logic, it's a non-linear way of thinking. So ignoring is powerful. This is why revenge is not smart. Where let's say a guy gets backstabbed by a friend or a girl, the best thing you could do is ignore and start leveling up. Focus on that.
I will say that, Arman, it's usually best to block them because they ruin the experience for your actual followers because they clog up your replies with nonsense. So I block anyone on site in the sense that if you leave me a negative comment for no reason, like calling me a misogynist or whatever sexist, you will be blocked almost instantly. Like if I see
How
your
big
tweet, I will block it.
how big is your blocked accounts at this point? Any rough
Probably
estimate?
like a couple thousand at least.
Damn.
Let me check. Is there any way to check this number?
I think there is a way to check it.
Let me see.
Lo-
There are like thousands. I block a lot of people, and that's because I just don't have time to deal with nonsense. Like
Mhm.
I don't care about their respect. It's like being respected by dogs. Like it doesn't really matter.
Do they ever make burner accounts trying to get back at you?
Probably. Wait, how do I check? I am in security and account access. Security. Back. No. Privacy and safety. Scrolling down, 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 down. Hmm. I don't know how to check. Sorry.
So I think it's on privacy and safety.
Privacy and
And
safety.
do you
Oh
have a
yeah, mute and
section
block.
called
Correct.
safety?
Blocked accounts. Okay, so I can see a big list, but I don't see a number. Ah, apparently you can import block lists.
You're going to do a follow up sequence harassing them now.
No, not really.
No, it's
It's not worth the time. Like, why would I do that? Oh yeah, but
well, at
this
this point,
I would bet this list is at least 5,000 people. I don't know for sure, but probably. So you were telling me about some guy you for pranking with or something.
pranking what?
You mentioned when I interrupted you. You said that you were hanging out with a prankster or watching a prankster.
Oh yeah, so I was watching this prankster, and I wrote an email about him, which I called the funniest YouTuber, and I personally find him hilarious. He's one of the few guys that does real pranks, and he was popping around the 2012 to 2013 era, and I actually ended up meeting
Oh,
him.
what was the name? Because
Uh, limit
if it's a thousand
limitless
12, I might know.
limitless limitless exp.
Oh, no idea.
So when I visited Vegas, apparently, he was like this big celebrity, and there were people trying to take pictures with him. And I briefly met him, said what's up, but I didn't know he made YouTube videos like that. Later on, I ended up getting introduced to his channel, and I was hooked. By the way, I don't know if it's 2012 or 2016 where he was popping. This is when pranks were big. And I was laughing hysterically on each one of his videos. And then I just stopped watching him for a couple of months to a couple of years. And I saw that his last video was titled Why I Stopped Making YouTube Videos. And the summary of that was that, yes, he wanted to travel more and do other activities, but a large part of it was due to the hate comments that he was getting on the Twitter comments, where people were like, Oh man, you already did this prank already. Come on, man, you got to upload more consistently. Ah man, this prank sucked. And even though he had a lot of fans like me and a lot of people who were commenting positive stuff, he was unfortunately focusing on the negative stuff, which led him to quit. And I don't think he's posted in, I would say, 4 years or so. But personally, for me, man, he's my favorite prankster on YouTube.
Hmm. I can definitely see negative comments getting under people's skin, especially women's skin. Like if there's a woman making content on the internet, women tend to take negative comments very personally. And I know that because I have business associates who are female, and they will sometimes, quote a screenshot of a tweet that's negative and ask me if this is true and what I think of it. And sometimes they will almost be in tears. So women will take negative comments very, very personally, most of them. But men will take it too, but less so. So it men have more resistance, but eventually, I think if someone is taking it personally, it's going to get to them. You just have to realize that this is normal on the internet. This is the internet,
Well, that's what I was going to ask. You think it's a woman thing or a people thing?
It's a people thing. It's a people thing because even men have emotions and they do take it personally. At least most of them, on some level, do, unless you're a psychopath. But women will take it far more personally than men will. And, you know, and this is just from my experience with dealing with females who are in the same content creation business as I am, where women will get messages like you look ugly and things like that. And things like that affect women. They really do affect women. So you call a woman who is a little chubby fat, and she will feel very upset. You call a man who is chubby fat, and he's gonna probably not notice that much.
And yeah, I mean, I definitely have noticed different reactions from different people where certain people let it get to them and other people are able to brush it off rather quickly. One
I
of the
think
things,
that being too emotional is a liability when you are on the internet, and having a very thick skin is an asset. So, for example, if you take me like on Life Math Money, I get mobbed all the time. I have like entire mobs calling me whatever different name, and I just don't care. I'll put a sales suite under it and I'll monetize it, but it doesn't affect my feelings that much. But other people, even anonymous females, it does affect them.
the man, I was going to say something, I just forgot.
Think of
The
what you were thinking of when you were about to say that.
No, it was going to tie into one of the other points where, okay, I actually got it. So we hear about sexual transmutation a lot. And I believe you actually bring that up in one of your books,
Hmm.
right? Where you're using your sexual energy in order to create. I have a blog article called Rage Transmutation, where it's not just anger, but you're feeling rage, like you are pissed. And the ordinary response is to use that in order to lash out. But if you could just hold it in and you have some sort of creative outlet, whether it's bodybuilding, whether it's making YouTube videos, whether it's creating a podcast, something, just that small little lapse where you turn that energy into a form of creation, you're able to change your perception. I don't know if you know this, Harsh, but during moments of trauma, people go into hyper learning mode where, let's say, you had something highly embarrassing happen to you. At that moment, your brain releases some sort of chemicals which allows it to absorb information at rapid rates. It's sort of like right after you're done working out, you normally get a protein shake. Right after you're in a heated, intense, a traumatic moment, the last thing you probably want to do is learn. But that's actually the best time where you could remind yourself of something that you've been trying to learn, and you'll absorb it much easier. So that's one concept that I bring up in my blog article called Rage Transmutation. I'll drop it in the description box, or you can go on ArmaniTalks.com and check it out. And it honestly teaches you how you can use trolls and all these different people that hold you back as a tool for more creativity.
Agree. I'm not fully convinced about rage and learning because, in my experience, and I don't get angry much nowadays, but back in my teenage years, I would have more hormones and I would, get pissed off. It becomes very difficult to focus on anything after you get, say, extremely angry and pissed and frustrated. Then you just want to go to sleep.
Well, that's where you want to control your breath too, where you don't just want to control your emotions with your mind. That's difficult. But if you could improve your body language, smile a little bit more, use your breath to your advantage, then your breath actually serves as this remote controller for your emotional states. So it's different for different people. It's not something that you want to immediately do, but it's a concept that you want to gradually introduce to yourself rather than lashing out and doing something that you're going to regret.
Hmm. I agree there. I think that being able to control your emotions, especially when you get angry, is an extremely important skill because when you get angry, you're not thinking straight and you basically do things you regret later. So
Hmm.
I think that is a very valuable skill. I'm not fully sure if we can take the emotion of anger and apply it into more productive things. Except the gym, of course. That is a place where being raged and angry is a good thing because that's going to help you lift heavier and harder.
Well, that's where I think you and I disagree, Harsh. Well, no, I agree with the lifting part, but I do think anger can be used for stuff like lifting,
Or
along with
boxing,
co-
like you can use it for boxing.
boxing, content creation as well, from my experience.
Hmm. I haven't
Let me
really
ask you.
had that much experience with that, so can't really comment.
Let me ask you. So you said you used to get angry. Was it a certain age? Because
Yeah, when I
I'm
was
trying to
like
see something.
14, 15, 16 years old. So
Okay,
like,
I noticed that a lot from different kids. Where I believe there was this one talk we were having where we said around a certain age, kids get bullied a lot. I also noticed that at a certain age, kids ha- get these rage moments a lot or anger moments. Did you notice that?
yeah, I think it has something to do with, puberty hormones. Like you have your body is essentially changing at a very rapid rate, and there's too much new things coming in your life. Plus, in those days you also have school and exams, and so it's like a pressure situation for you. So all in, I do not particularly like those years. I think I would say age 13 to 15 maybe was the worst time of my life.
13 to 15.
What about you? Like, what was
For
the worst
me,
period of your life?
for me, it was 14 to 16.
Yeah, so about the same period.
Yes. And did you want to explain why for you? And I'll explain why for me.
It was just, I hated school. I hated waking up in the morning and I really did not look forward to it. I, I remember I would wait until Friday and I would almost be depressed on Sunday evening because I would have 5 straight days of school. So I hated school. And
Hmm.
I didn't have that many friends in school and I would like get bullied a little bit here and there and it wasn't that much fun. And it was a time where I lacked any semblance of social skills. I was almost autistic in the sense I was very good at math and computers, and I was very nerdy, but I didn't have many friends and I would feel alone. Plus having the whole exams and everything, I really did not enjoy that period of my life. I just did not. Like I could tell you that I had like a fun childhood, which I really did. My childhood was a lot of fun, but those particular ages were terrible.
Right. And that actually is pretty similar for me, where I would say 14 to 16 ish. Those were the ages where my body wasn't right, where used to be 5'3", right? Pretty short. And I used to get mocked by a lot of the other kids who were like, whoa, man, you're one of the shortest boys in our class. And that was a period where I was getting joked on left and right. And I wouldn't say I was a good looking kid. So I wasn't getting much attention from women either. And then suddenly, Harsh, I would say from 15 to 16, I go from 5 feet 3 to 6 foot
Damn.
suddenly, right? And it was funny because my grandpa and my dad used to tell me that if you play a lot of basketball, you will grow. And I didn't know if they were joking or something. But back then, dude, I believed it. From everything in my mind, I'm like, yeah, they have a point. If I play basketball, I'll grow. So I don't know how much a role that belief had because going from 5'3" to 6 foot is not a normal sort of growth spurt. It's a pretty intense growth spurt. But another problem happened where when you go from 5'3" to 6 foot, now you're skinny. Now you have these growing pains trying to grow into these new bones. And I'm over here 6 foot tall, 130 pounds. And now people are making fun of me for
For
being too
being skinny.
skinny. But
If
here,
people want to make fun of you, they will find something.
yeah, but here's
Go ahead, sorry.
here's the thing. So this was now a polarized moment because since I was tall, and skinny, the guys made fun of me a lot. But this was the first time in my life where I was starting to get attention from girls. Where there was this pretty chubby chick I used to hang out with named Eileen, and she was
Oh, I
like
hope she
my.
doesn't watch the podcast.
We used to call her Smiley Eileen, and she knew me when I used to be short. So she was stunned when I grew this tall out of the blue moon. And one day I'm chilling in class, and she comes and sits next to me like sort of proud mom, and she's like, "You know, a lot of the girls think you're cute now, right?" I was like, "Who?" She's like, "You." I was like, "Yeah, right. No girls think I'm cute." And back then, we had these notes, right? We didn't have text, so we would write notes on a paper. And she dumped all these different notes on my desk, and all these different girls are over here talking about me, saying, "Oh, Arman's pretty cute. Yeah, he's really tall." And at that point, I grew up my hair. But that was like that stage, Harsh, where I was finding myself. So I didn't like it too much, but it was a necessary step.
Definitely necessary, definitely necessary. But I just noticed something that you said, that people are making fun of you that you are skinny, and that really is the case. When people want to make fun of you, they will find something. And there's this guy called Corporate Machiavelli on Twitter who is off Twitter now because he has a terminal disease and he's about to die. Have you heard of him?
Wait, really? Man, I love corporate Machiavelli. He used to actually give a lot of words of encouragement when me and you would release this podcast. He'd say, "Great job, keep it up."
Oh, is that so? Okay, so he stopped tweeting, of course, because he has cancer and he's going to die very fast. So he wants to
Ah,
dedicate the rest of his time to his family. And this is public knowledge. That's what he said, told everyone. So Corporate Machiavelli. So I get brigaded by random people on Twitter, correct? Like random groups like lesbians or gay people or feminists or whoever. And often these people will assume that I'm 50, 60 years old and they will call me uncle. Like, this guy's an Indian uncle and that's why he thinks this to be true. And Corporate Machiavelli was telling me that these guys just don't like you and that's why they're making fun of you by calling you uncle. If they knew you were 25, they will say, "What does this guy know? He's 25, he's a kid." So,
so either way, you're gonna get hate.
yeah, either way, you're going to get hate.
There was this Facebook post, Harsh, where there was a debate that was happening from fat shaming versus skinny shaming, and it was getting heated because I forgot what the post was, but they were talking about how dangerous skinny shaming is, and someone writes a comment. So you're saying fat shaming is not dangerous, and someone
Yeah,
else
yeah,
writes,
that's what I'm saying,
"S-
bitch.
And someone else writes, skinny shaming is not even a thing. And other people are like, are we really comparing the two? Do you have no heart? And they're over here debating. And from my personal experience, I was never fat to a point where I was getting fat shamed. I was probably chubby at certain stages, but bro, I got skinny shamed like none other by uncles, aunties, friends, family. And, nowadays I don't really care. But back in those days, man, it actually can take a hit on your self-esteem if you don't use it to level up in some way. Skinny shaming is a thing.
I agree. In fact, I was dating this girl who was very skinny because I'm into that. And she would tell me that her family would basically encourage her to eat more and say that she's too thin and she needs to gain weight. So, yeah, and it did affect her. So I know that it affects people for a fact. It's just for someone like me who spent a lot of time dealing with, being chubby, it doesn't register being skinny.
hmm And the opposite is true for me. When someone's like, being fat, like, how do you get fat? How is this even possible? Or you get shamed? And for me, it just doesn't register because I could lose weight quickly, while there's the opposite problem that happens as well.
With fat people, you can, if so, for example, Arman, if you're skinny but you wear a shirt and a pant, most people can't really tell that you're extremely skinny because your shirt kind of covers it up. But when someone
No,
is
no, 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 no. I will say that's not accurate from my experience.
no,
Where if you wear a shirt, yeah, if you wear a shirt, they actually make fun of you more. Where they're like, let's say you're a pretty ripped kind of guy. You have a six pack, you have a nice body, but you need to be shirtless in order to see it. And you wear a shirt,
yeah, that's why
people
I
are
don't
going,
I don't do six packs. The reason I don't really think being ripped is a smart idea is because first of all, it kind of forces you into a very a bad lifestyle, like not a bad lifestyle, but a less fun lifestyle, like, where you have to constantly monitor what you're eating and carry a Tupperware around,
hmm
and no one can see it. So if you're wearing a shirt, people will assume you're skinny. So it's not worth it. So my goal is just to be big and strong, so that people know I left even when I'm wearing clothes. Or at least here in India, it's not considered to be polite to not wear a shirt. I've never seen anyone in public not wear a shirt, even on beaches and everything. Like if
yeah, I
you
was gonna say,
see a guy not wearing a shirt, it means he's homeless and doesn't have a shirt. And that's when you give him like 200 rupees, just buy yourself a shirt, man. Like, but go ahead.
right.
I
Eh,
digressed.
Well, the thing is, if you are, let's say you do get ripped, and getting ripped is not an easy task. It requires a whole lifestyle overhaul. And let's say you do go out and, you're wearing a shirt, you're wearing a nice dress shirt to be exact. Others may just look at you and be like, yo, man, look how skinny you are. You're small. And
Exactly, you're
that
small.
yeah, and that word, like, oh, you're small, it could get to you, especially if you're someone who puts in work. You altered your diet plan, and now simply because you're wearing a shirt, they can't tell.
But that's not their fault. That's your fault. Like you picked being skinny and you picked being ripped, and that is something you can only see if you're shirtless.
And,
So
and this is where
it
this is
wasn't
where
worth it.
well, no, actually, I would say it was to a point worth it because
It's
here's the
worth
thing.
doing it once, but it's
Well,
not worth staying in that shape.
Here's the thing, Harsh. A lot of guys will hate on you. They'll be like, "Oh man, you're so small," blah 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 blah. But you know what girls will say? Because when you have a six pack or if you're ripped, there's this chisel to your jaw that you can't get with a bulked body as well. And
Grow a beard.
yeah, but that chisel where like, is this jawline? And this jawline is highly primal, where women, if they see that jawline,
Yeah, they
they
like it.
become, they love it. Where I don't want to plug my Instagram or anything, but but, but my personal Instagram, Armani Talks underscore. If you scroll all the way back, I believe there's a picture of me with a six pack, and this is that point where I would say I was in college at the time, where according to guys, I was considered small or skinny, but women loved it. they would literally just look at that jawline and they could see they process bodies differently than men. Where they'll look at your forearms, they'll see the veins, and they'll be like, "Yo, this guy is actually pretty attractive." So what I'm trying to say, Harsh, is that men and women process what's a good body
Differently.
very differently.
That is definitely true. And I've when I was bulking, I would have girls tell me to stop because I'm getting too big. And as a guy, what is too big? Like that doesn't exist.
How big were you? Over 200?
So I finished the bulk at about 100 kilos, so about 225. And I was intending to go to 100 to 110 kilos, so about 245 or 250. But then I had gained a lot of fat in the bulk. So I wanted to remove the fat because I wasn't feeling very good about, looking chubbier. It was messing with me. So I decided. So I'm on a cut. I'm about 92 now. So in the past 3 months, I've lost about 8 kg of fat, more or less fat, because I eat 200 grams of protein. So it's very difficult to lose muscle.
Mm-hmm.
But that's definitely the case where women process bodies differently. Like girls will say, "When are you getting abs?" And I'm like, "I'm bulking. I'm not getting abs."
So you're 202 pounds right now, and I believe we're around the same height. Do you have a little bit of a circular face, or do you have a jawline as well?
I have a pretty decent jawline, but I have like a beard now, so I can't really see. Like I have like uh, 2 inches of beard, I would say.
Oh, okay. And a beard is another cheat code as well. But some guys can't grow beards like that. So now they have to work on different features, such
And
as that
a
jawline.
jawline really looks good. Like, girls really love it. It's just that you have to shave every day, and I'm not going to do that. Are you kidding?
Well, unless you're a guy like me who can't really grow a beard. So no shaving needed.
What happens when you try to grow a beard? Like, it's just like a couple of weeks, it'll look bad, but eventually it should fill out.
Well, for me, I try, but there's certain times I get patches where it doesn't look full. It
It's
doesn't
fine.
look
Like, eventually
nice.
it'll get there.
But the way that my face looks, dude, I I believe I look better without the beard. Where whenever I do grow it, my face actually alters drastically. And I know because I see my face a lot as I'm watching my old videos back, and I look like a polar opposite guy. And I think personally for me, I look better
Hmm.
clean shaven. And I believe for me, like I've hit that 200-pound range a few times where I think it's okay. But I think for me, I like the ripped, I wouldn't say super ripped body, but more towards the rip side than the bulking side. Not only for energy, but I think actually physically look better with that body style.
I see. I see. I think what you say makes sense as well. Like, you know, I think most girls don't really like beards that much, all that much, because I've had girls who actually complained about, bigger beards because it gets in the way for them. For them, it rubs their face.
Uh huh.
So not all girls like it. Like, some girls are into it, but most girls would prefer you to shave. It's just that shaving involves a lot of work, and a beard looks good. Plus, if you're bulking, then you don't have to worry about your face getting fatter if you have a beard because it covers up nicely.
Hmm.
Because
My
otherwise, if someone you like looking good, and then when you're bulking, you have to gain some fat as well, and you see all your veins starting to disappear, and that kind of
mhm.
messes you up. So it's fine to not. I don't trim my beard or my body hair. It's fine. Like that's normal. We're guys. We're supposed to be hairy.
You Indians definitely are hairy.
No, I'm not that
I'm just
hairy.
joking.
No,
I'm
I'm
just
not
joking.
super hairy. Like, yeah, if I was like, I don't look dirty hairy. Like some people when they have lots of hair, they kind of look
Hmm.
dirty, or at least that's my perception lately because I've been looking at people with like waxed bodies lately. Like, nowadays on Twitter, people will post. So I'm getting used to that. So people with dirty hair, I would say, not dirty. I mean, it just doesn't look super clean. But my hair aren't that dark, so it looks good.
No, the reason that I said that, Harsh, was because back to the grad school Indian guys that would come to parties, where They were super hairy, and what I would say two of them would do is they would unbutton their shirt to the half, so their chest hair is sticking out, and they're over here walking like the man. And I remember one time they're trying to get in, and the bouncer is like, "Hey, button up your shirt." It was too funny. A
Ah,
bouncer is the guy who lets you in the club or not.
okay. Wait, what's wrong with having chest hair? That's normal.
Well, well, it's not. It's normal, but this guy was over here unbuttoning his shirt, so you could see almost half of his chest. And we're in a public setting, and I'm like,
Hey, if girls can
you know,
do it, why can't we?
he should have actually said that. He's like, well, she's doing it.
you know, it, girls nowadays wear clothes that are so short, and they think that, sometimes they'll say, if guys can wear it, why can't I? But I've never seen guys wear clothes that are that short. Like some girls will wear like pants where you can actually see their ass, and I've never seen a guy wear that.
Well, I've been seeing guys wear skinny jeans, and I'm like, dude, if you
Skinny
don't
jeans
stop right
fair,
now,
but I haven't seen anything which shows like basically a guy who's almost nude. Like that's I've never seen that.
do people wear skinny jeans in India?
Yeah, because most people in India are skinny, they don't lift, so that's the fashion.
Oh, okay. That's one thing I cannot ever wear. It's like
My
your pants were painted on you.
my it's impossible for me to even find skinny jeans because I squat so much. I squat like twice a week and I squat maximal weight, so my thighs are really really big. So I'm at a situation where I have to find pants that are loose for my waist. So I have to wear like a belt, but they're tight for my thighs.
Loose around the waist?
Yeah, so I have to wear a size which would be loose around my waist, but the pant would be still be snug and tight around my thighs because if I find a pant which fits my waist, then it won't fit my thighs. I won't be able to get it up.
Oh, and do you wear shorts, or is the same thing with shorts?
Oh no, shorts are usually fine, but they're very snug around my thighs. So clothes in India are made for, the average Indian who has very weak legs. So you put someone like me into the Indian person's clothing and you can literally see a bulge around my thigh where it just I have to wear a bigger size. So it's very loose around my calves because it's like a bigger size and loose around my waist where I have to wear a belt. But around my thighs it just fits.
And you have problems with shirts?
I have to wear shirts which have more material around the shoulder and give your arms some breathing space in the sense that some brands will make shirts for like skinny people, so I can't put my arms in the sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's too tight around my biceps, and sometimes the shoulders aren't just enough in the shirt that it'll just look weird, or I have to like buy bigger sizes sometimes. But there are certain brands which do make fitting clothes.
Do you have like a certain style, Harsh? Are you preppy, casual, anything like that?
So nowadays, when I so I've been working from home, correct, for the past couple of years. So when I'm working, I will wear something very comfortable. And if I'm like doing a podcast, then I will usually wear something that's very snug because it improves your voice. Like, so currently I'm wearing like a turtleneck because it's very cold.
Mm-hmm.
But usually I would wear like something that gives me more authority so that I can have a better voice. Your what you wear gets into your voice. But otherwise, I wear like a jeans and a shirt or a t-shirt or something.
Got it.
It's because I can, I don't really have to wear formals because I don't work for anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Eh, Yeah, like for me personally, I wear pretty well. Here's my philosophy: if I could wear the clothes, I would say 10 years from now, I am interested in it. And it's ironic because I love Armani Exchange clothes, and Armani Exchange was founded on 1991, my birthday,
Oh, it's
and
that new.
yeah, and one of the shirts, it's hilarious because it writes Armani, but the I is on the complete edge. So it looks like it writes Arman, 1991. So when I go
Mm,
out, people are like, "Oh my, you have your own shirt?"
that's damn right I do.
Damn right. But I'm a big fan of Armani Exchange.
So, do you normally wear formals like trousers, and or do you normally wear jeans when you
I
go about
normally
your
wear
day?
I normally wear jeans and I wear clothes that I'm comfortable with. And if I'm going out, for example, to a fancy restaurant or something, then your boy has the high end clothes as well. I have a few
Mm,
custom fit suits. I do have trousers, but that's not how I'm normally dressing. Normally, I dress for comfort.
I think people like us have this advantage, since we work for ourselves, we don't have to listen to someone else about what to wear. Because I remember when I used to work in a big accounting firm, I would have to wear formal clothes and I would have to wear a tie, and I hated that tie so much. I have never worn a tie since.
Oh, it was mandatory.
Yeah, I think it was mandatory. I don't remember. This was back in 2015. So when I was 18 years old, and I had to wear that tie. And first of all, in India, it's very hot. In summers, it's very hot. It's about 30 degrees Celsius. And wearing that stupid tie and coat made me want to kill someone. And I really hate ties. It just kind of makes me feel like I'm suffocating.
Oh, you have to wear a coat too?
Yeah, for formal places, we would have to wear a coat. And I did not like, I never liked, I liked wearing coats sometimes when it's like in AC, but I wouldn't wear a coat if I'm not in a air conditioned room because it's just so hot. And ties I would never wear anywhere. It's trying to kill you basically. It's trying to suffocate you to death.
Yeah, in the US, what happens is, well, what used to happen was that you would have to wear formal clothes from Monday to Thursday. And for most companies, on
Yeah,
Friday,
Friday was
you could
casual
wear
day.
casual
Yeah, we
clothes.
had that too.
But nowadays, most companies, Harsh, they actually allow you to wear formal or informal all the time.
Is that because more companies are moving to work from home, or is it because they aren't facing the client anymore?
So in my last company, which was a Fortune 500 company, they were doing this because other companies adopted it, and apparently it boosted worker happiness by a lot, which led to more productivity. More people
Mm,
were now coming in on time, more people were staying later, and as more of the numbers came in, the more that more companies started to adopt it.
I see.
And Harsh, it's a night and day difference where for us, like mentally, when it was Friday, a part of me felt good because I was like, yes, today I could wear the jeans and I could wear uh, a t-shirt if I want. But so we associated that positive feeling from a Friday later on where it was now on the weekdays. So now it'll be a Tuesday and I'm like, yes, I get to wear my jeans and my t-shirt today, forgetting that it's Tuesday. So more and more employees were thinking like this, and more employees were now moving with a little bit more fire.
So Arman, do you like working from home more, or did you like going to office more? Because I see that you're a very social person. I would say that you would like interacting with people more. But I can also see that when you're working from home, you get more time to do things like this, podcasts and creating content and,
Yes.
starting a side business.
hmm The way that I structured my business, Harsh, I still have a pretty good offline presence where I network with different people in the Tampa Bay area. Um, and to answer your question, I personally liked my job a lot as well, where I worked with different people. But nowadays, I enjoy the freedom that working from home can give because now you decide whether you want to do more offline for the particular day or more online for the particular day. Where when you have to go to the company, it's more so what they say. But one thing that I do want to make the case for is for me personally, working at an office is not that bad, in my opinion, because it does give you a chance to be exposed to more people. Where when I was in undergrad, Harsh, you could pretty much just go from your dorm to the library and you're at least going to run into three people. It may not seem like a lot, but from those three people, one person may say, "Hey, I'm throwing an event later tonight. Do you want to come through?" And boom, you have just been presented an opportunity. While if you're strictly working from home and you don't take any measures to build some sort of offline presence, you're
You
not
will be
necessarily
isolated
getting
very
that.
fast.
Yeah, and you could get isolated very quickly. And I don't know if it's good for some people who already like staying to themselves a lot. What about you?
Personally, I really liked working from office because it would give me. I'm very extroverted in the sense that I'm extremely extroverted. I think when I do the Big Five test, I get like 95% extroversion. So I really enjoyed interacting with lots of people, but I also did not like the commute. And I think all in all, I prefer working from home very significantly. And that's because you can always get social interaction in different ways, like sports or the gym or, you know, going out with your friends or whatever. And it's not the situation where work is the only place where social interaction is possible, but it becomes really, really difficult for someone to have a side business when they are working full time. It is possible, and a lot of people do it, where they work and when they have free time at work, they do a business. And a lot of people I know have done that. So when I released Life Math Money's course, The Art of Twitter, for Twitter, a lot of people who built brands on Twitter did that while they were working. So when they had like a minute, they would go and tweet something or whatever. But it's impossible to run a very serious big business if you have to go to office and waste time on a commute and essentially when you're being monitored by people. But it's much easier to do that when you're working from home. Plus, if you have a terrible boss who's micromanaging you, it's better to work from home. So I think work from home is the way to go. And I think it's the future because it's just cheaper for the company and cheaper for the employee. And that's what all the talented people want. All the talented people want to work from home. And all the retards and the dumb people want to go back to office. So it is going to be work from home.
There are some companies at this point, Harsh, which are slowly implementing going back to the office. And I do hear nowadays that it's a record high in how many people are quitting their jobs.
I think these companies are behind the times in the sense they're living in 2019 and they are going to fail. Or if they don't change, they will eventually fail because they will be outcompeted. If you run a business which has 60% in cost, and I run a business which has only 10% in cost, then I can provide the same service at a cheaper price and I will have better talent because I can hire from across all over the world. So I'm going to outcompete you and I'm going to win. It's just a matter of time. And the whole going back to office thing are just people who are behind the times and they will either learn or they adapt or die. Adapt or die is the situation.
So you see work from home not going away. It's going to be now integrated into culture.
It has to be.
What's that to do for HR positions? You think that becomes a dying field?
I think HR will still be relevant. It just wouldn't need a very big department. HR is the reason HR exists is not just to, you know, hire people. It's the HR exists to protect the company from its employees. It exists to make
Hmm.
sure people don't sue the company and things like that. So HR departments will still be around. It just would not have as much power as they do today.
Dude, there was this one job that I had where I'm going to call the guy Mike. He was this, I would say, mid 40s white guy. And he seemed like he used to be in the army because he was so freaking strict. And when I first joined the company, he went out of his way to invite me to lunch. We were interacting, we were talking. And as more months started to pass on by, different coworkers would come to me and would be like, Mike is under investigation by the HR, right? I was like, wait, for real? Why? They're like, you didn't know? Mike's a racist. I was like, Mike? No way. And there were all these different coworkers who were filing disputes against him. And apparently he called them certain words, talked to them a certain way. But I wasn't able to interpret that at all from our interaction together. And that's when I saw a need for, like, because before this, Harsh, I never really knew what the HR position did. I'm like, do people really file reports to you guys, or do you guys just uh, are you guys just here just in case? And I saw that I don't know how this solution would Mike would have been resolved without an HR team.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess if different people could talk to him man to man, but he was a person of power, so there needed to be that
Yeah,
sort of
there needs to be
intermediary.
someone to go to, correct. Yeah, I think that HR departments are necessary, especially for big companies, because otherwise you put the company at risk. Like people think HR is there for the employees, but really it's there for the company, like, to protect the company. Because
Hmm.
what happens? Okay, let's say that there's some case of, let's say, sexual harassment. Okay, and there's no HR department. Okay, then if you can't go to the HR department, where do you go? You go to the police, and that is the worst case situation. So you would rather resolve the situation in house than have it go outside the company, and that's what the HR is there for. So it's there to protect the company. It's not there for you. I am not fully sure what someone can say that people start filing, reports against him for being racist. Like, was he like firing people for being different nationalities or something? I don't know, but
So here's what happened. There were two people who told me something similar happened. One guy's name was Jorge, and Jorge was
his
en
name was
route for,
Jorge.
yeah, like, but it's spelled like Jorge. J is
Oh, okay,
pronounced
okay.
ha. Yes,
Jorge,
Jorge.
Jorge.
Yeah. So he was about to be promoted for a pretty high position. And normally, when you're about to get promoted for a high position, you have to get a few higher managers who vouch for you. And Mike was supposed to be the guy that vouched for Jorge. But instead, Mike was apparently telling a bunch of the other staff members that he's lazy because he's Spanish. And that was his main concern,
Is
his
that a thing?
ethnicity.
Are Spanish people lazy?
No, Spanish people are actually pretty hardworking,
Is it?
but
Okay.
but here's the thing: there are certain stigmas which are like, nah, man, the Spanish people are lazy. They take our jobs. These are certain stigmas,
Wait,
and I
was that
think
guy from Mexico or was he from Spain? Because I've heard that people from Spain are lazy. I don't know for sure, but I've heard they nap in the afternoon and everything. So I've heard that. I don't know about Mexicans. Is he Mexican or Spanish?
so. Jorge wasn't either. He was Dominican. So I I think Mike was just superimposing that Spanish label. Like
Mm.
I could be saying, "Oh, I'm Bengali." People will be like, "Oh, you're Indian." They don't understand that there's differences.
No, Bengalis are
But
Indians.
yeah, but like like let's say Chinese, Vietnamese, Philippines.
Uh,
Some people will be like China.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
eventually they'll get there. They're gonna conquer everything, and we're gonna conquer Bangladesh. Don't worry. Give it time.
No, but basically what happened was he was just saying, "Listen, you're he's Spanish, so you don't want to hire him." And he did that with one person, and then apparently with another person, he did something similar, but this one was a woman. So he wasn't necessarily being a racist, but he was being sexist in this regards, where he's like, "Oh no, no, this is a man's position. A woman can't handle that." Where whether you agree with it or not, you don't
Yeah,
tell
you
that
don't say
to
that. You don't say that. That's dumb.
you don't say that to like a staff of people. And over time, he started to build his reputation, and more people just waited on his demise for them all to file the HR reports at the same time. And what happened with Mike was that he was in a high position, but he just sort of disappeared, where he didn't get fired from the company, but he got a position which was not visible. And you could tell that this hurt his pride a lot because he was a guy that worked for years and years building up his reputation to be at the top. And then he just suddenly fell out of the blue moon.
Hmm. So it was like politics in a way.
Dude, corporate life is politics. Whether you want to play it or not, at some points as you're rising, there's certain levels of gossip and hands you have to shake, certain lunches you have to coordinate that come into the play in terms of determining whether or not you're going to get that promotion. And when I was first starting Armani Talks, there were different engineers I was working with on how they could present their ideas with more clarity and confidence. And the problem with a lot of these engineers was that they knew the system very well. That was their strength and that was their liability as well because they spoke like machines. And I'm like, listen, even if you know these systems or not, that doesn't matter. The operations team, the business analysts, they don't know any of the technicalities that you know. So you got to speak to people. Don't speak to
Arman,
machines or
your
don't
voice
speak to
cut.
show how smart you are.
You don't know any of the tech.
The what?
Your voice got cut.
What's the last thing you heard?
You don't know any of the tech.
I don't know any of the. No, I do know the tech, but what I'm saying is
Like you, the last thing was I heard was you don't know. They don't know how to speak, and they talk like machines.
yes. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're a hard skilled engineer who knows your system, whatever you're the application manager for, eventually what's holding you back from getting that promotion is being able to display your competency to other people who don't speak your language. That's why it kind of ties into that politics thing that I was talking about, where the way that I'm using politics now is that you got to be able to communicate your message in a way where people understand. Every now and then, there's going to be some hostility. Every now and then, people are going to comply quickly, but you got to understand somewhat of how people work. You can't just understand the machines and call it a day.
I agree. In fact, I used to have the same issue where I was very good at everything I do, but I would just walk over people in the sense that I would show them disrespect, and that would eventually come to bite me in some or the other way. And of course, this matters very little to me now because I have my own business. But even now, I still try to not be super crass with people. But back then, when I was 18, I was very rough with people.
Were you intentionally or accidentally being rough?
Both.
Because what I've noticed, Harsh, is that with a lot of technical positions, whether it's accounting or engineers, what happens is they're not necessarily, well, in your case, you were probably both, but with other people, they're a lot of the times confused. They're like, why did this person get offended? I just told them what it is. I'm like, bro, but it's the way that you said it. Your voice is very harsh. He's like, what? Why does that matter? I told him what he needed to hear. And it was accidental on their end, it wasn't intentional.
I think, when there's a step up when you realize that the way you say things really matters. That so when people think that what they say matters and the way they say it should be irrelevant, that's when you know that this person isn't very socially developed. And that's because while it's true this is how the world should have been, it's not, but the world isn't this way, so they're living in a fantasy land. In reality, people really care about how you say things and how you make them feel. So you have to care about it, because if you don't, then you won't have any relationships or network or anything you want to build. So that is something that once you realize it, you've gained a step, like you have leveled up. You have learned something very important about the world. In a way, it's like your first day in the gym. You're essentially just about to discover a lot more.
And one way to ease yourself into that, if a guy is like, I'm that guy, I speak too harsh, my voice tone isn't nice, and when I'm trying to disagree with someone, I make an enemy. Here's what you can do to ease yourself into it: smile before disagreeing, and make the mental note that this other person is more sensitive than you can initially imagine. By simply doing this, what you do is you create a thing called verbal judo, where your words are more dynamic. There's this more dance to the words. And if you could say the words correctly, you could flat out insult the person. Like, I could be like, harsh, you piece of shit. And I could be smiling. And subconsciously, your mind is going to bypass that, thinking that I'm joking with you. But
Hmm.
imagine if a leader is capable of communicating this message in a way where they're able to give feedback properly, which is important.
Arman, the way I would say deal with it is to just imagine that you're talking to children. So how would you criticize a child? Like you would do it very politely, and you wouldn't be too harsh. And I know it sounds very condescending, but it's usually best to think of everyone else as a child. Like how would you deal with a kid, like a 5-year-old, and speak that way?
hmm That's where
That really
women are.
works. Yeah.
That's where women are gifted, harsh, where it comes so naturally to them, where they have this gentle tonality that they can deliver these messages with, and they notice micro movements so rapidly. Did you notice that?
Yes, it's almost like women evolved to deal with children, almost like. There's this very good book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that I think everyone should read. It's available on socialskillswisdom.com for free.
Yeah, by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, by Dale Carnegie. And you don't want to read the modern book. You want to read the one on socialskillswisdom.com, because that guy's book, so he wasn't a big feminist or anything, and he wrote advice on how to deal with men and women separately. But after he died, his wife and his daughter essentially redid the book. They basically made it gender neutral, and they deleted all the paragraphs on how to deal with your wife and how to stop your wife from nagging and whatever. Okay, so they removed all of that, and they made it basically a very pacified version of the actual book. So you want to read the uncensored, unrevised edition from 1950, which is on which is on socialskillswisdom.com, and not buy a copy from the store, because you will get the revised edition, which has essentially been cucked by this guy's wife and children, like his daughter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so what they did was they edited the entire book to be gender neutral. And that doesn't work, okay? Like the book says like you have to add bad words like I think, I and words like that, like maybe, and that works with men in business situations, but you start doing that with women, and you will look like a pussy. Like you tell a woman, I think it's a good day. Like, is it a good day or is it not? So with women, you want to deal with them differently. You want to be far more assertive and dominant with the women, but with men you want to be softer and be more businesslike. So it takes away that dynamic when they did the revised edition. So I don't think the revised edition is a good thing. You should check out the unrevised edition, which is on socialskillswisdom.com.
Did you learn anything different in the unfiltered one? Was it mainly dynamic communication?
I think the unfiltered one is way better, way better, and it has literal chapters that were not. So the book was divided into 4 parts, and the fourth part was dealing. It was basically about married life. And what the revised edition did was that it completely deleted the fourth part, like all of it. So people, when they're buying a book from the store, they're only reading a small portion of the book. They also deleted the chapter on how to write better and how to write more effectively. And I don't know why they deleted that, but it's the edit. The edits this guy's wife and daughter made were not so good, and you should read the original book. So let me see. Let
Me-
me go to the site and see what topics they missed. Yeah, so they missed out all the topics on how you can make your marriage better, and what things mean a lot to women and what things mean more to men. So for example, women really care about you remembering their birthday and the marriage anniversary date, and men don't give a shit about that. Like, we don't care. So all of that is just deleted in the modern revised edition. So the book is in 6 parts, and they delete for two of those parts. So you're only reading 4 out of 6 parts if you buy the book from the store. But if you read on socialskillswisdom.com, which has the unrevised edition, you can read the entire book. And plus, it's free because in India, the copyright lasts for a certain number of years and that has expired. So this is a completely legal website that I made.
nice. I'll include the link in the description box.
But yeah, in general, you'd never want to talk to men and women the same way, because with men you want to say things like, I think this is happening. So for example, you're if a guy says something like, the concert is at 8 p.m. and you know it's at 9 p.m., you would want to say, I think it's at 9 p.m. But with girls you don't want to do that. If you do I think with girls, and you add a lot of business language, she will think you're a pussy because you're not sure of yourself. So with girls you want to say it's at 9, and that's it. Like, you want to be the leader there. But with guys, if you try doing that a lot, then you make it a competition thing, and then there's more hostility.
The ability to adjust is key. Man, we're able to talk for a long period of time. It's been over 2 hours and 45 minutes. How are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm feeling quite good. It's so when we started to talk, it was about 6 a.m. It was 6 a.m. and now it's 9:15. We're over 2:45. We're at 3 hours 15 minutes in.
Wow. You down
But
to
I
go
think
for
we
a
took
little
a
bit
break.
longer?
Yeah, we could go, or we could just end it here. We could do next week again.
Okay. So you want to start ending it?
Cool. Okay. So this was a very productive conversation with you, Arman, and as always, I really enjoy talking with you. But I'll get some breakfast soon. It's 9:30, almost 9:30 here. Oh, it is
And,
exactly 9:30 here. So I'll get something to eat.
and I'll go get some dinner soon. It was a great 10 episode anniversary, man. And I'm happy to be doing this with you. We always have insightful talks.
Likewise, Arman, it's always great to talk with you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. And for those of you guys listening, be sure to hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and stay updated with the latest episodes of Unapologetic Truths. Thank you very much for joining, and we will catch you on the next episode.